boom, cha, boom, boom, cha, choo, choo, choo. You know,
It's a fun song.
it's really good.
I don't like The Offspring all that much, but that's a real fun song.
I really do love The Offspring, and
know
I
you
think it's
do.
because you and I just travel in different musical circles. Because you are not as big of a fan of punk
I'm
as
just
I
not
am.
into punk nearly as much as
And
you are now.
that is so fair, but
I respect it
you know,
conceptually.
if you exit the punk genre, you really lose the fun of songs that are titled "The Only Good Fascist is a Very, Very Dead Fascist," and
This is the kind of stuff that makes me wish I did like punk when I
right,
listen to it, because they'll just say shit like that, and I love that.
dude, it's like,
Whereas black metal bands are
yeah,
always just like, you know what we should do is we should purge outsiders from our country.
it's like, hey, hey, Attila, what do you mean by that? When you said purge
Attila,
outsiders
what did
from
you
our
mean
country,
by that? What? Why are your Ride for Revenge? Why are your lyrics all talking about invaders from the east? What is that? What's the deal with that? Don't listen to Ride for Revenge. Their members are actually affiliated with like legit extremist groups.
fucking hell.
It's horrible, but like I listened to them by accident when I didn't know.
And I'm sure that their music is
I
really good.
hate that the worst black metal bands are always the ones with the songs that go so fucking hard.
It's really annoying. It's really, really annoying.
It's a tough genre to want to listen to, no matter how much I enjoy it.
Because all the music is like, not all the music. Much of the
Sure.
music is really,
It's raw.
it's compelling raw music.
Yeah.
But then,
In the same way that a lot of punk is.
yeah,
It's a different flavor,
it's a
but it's
different
doing a
compelling,
similar thing.
or it's a different flavor of compelling raw.
Yeah, I love the way that like the way that black metal bands will just release a demo and be like, yeah, that's it. We're not going to spend enough money to actually hit a real studio and get good production. This is what
Right.
it is.
And frankly, when black metal bands get better production, I don't think I like it more.
You don't like Keter Congren?
You know what?
Because
you
that's
got a
good
really
production
good
black
point
metal
there.
right there.
You got a really good
They
point.
are
I do have
honestly
them
my
on
gold
my
standard
vest.
for black metal with good production values.
They're okay. They are really, really good.
Yeah. Some might say that their production is a little bit too clean.
Well, yeah, but they're also bringing in like
They're
string
bringing in all the
orchestra.
symphonic stuff. It's kind of like you have to, right?
Yeah,
Like,
if you're doing orchestral stuff, you got to match their level, and the orchestra's
Yeah.
always going to sound clean and good. You have to sound clean and good.
now, I would be very interested in the orchestra that's recorded to sound dirty.
That would be something.
I would be real interested.
Someone
in that.
puts their fucking phone down in the middle of the orchestra pit and says, "All right, here we go."
It's best if you record it to vinyl, but like, yeah, it'll do.
Oh, sorry that I'm not cool enough for the underground symphonic black metal bands.
Yeah, I record all my music on a wax cylinder.
You've seen Rob Scallon's videos about that, right?
Yeah.
God, I love that. He's like, all right, we got to position everyone because there's no volume sliders here. Got to
There's
make
no
sure
mixing.
everything works out. And
We're
they
just
do their.
playing into this trumpet thing, and that's the microphone.
He's like, all right, the singer has to be right in front of it because he's the only unamplified one.
It makes it seem really obvious the reason that, like, in the earlier days of recorded music and stuff, a lot of the popular stuff was like Django Reinhardt, Stefan Grappelli, kind of like hot club jazz.
Yeah.
Because those are just really easy ensembles to mix by
Yeah.
just
you
setting
got-
your mic up correctly at the kitchen table that they're all playing
yeah,
at or whatever.
yeah, 4 guys sitting around one microphone. And
Just
3 of
drinking
them are
coffee
going
and smoking
chunk,
cigarettes.
chunk, 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 and then one goes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then Stefan Grappelli's like,
Mm-hmm.
because that's just how he always sounds.
God, I love that music so much.
It's so good.
Reinhardt and
Fuck.
Grappelli are like the sounds of my childhood, and obviously yours
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
There's like them as not even any specific songs because I couldn't name any of them, even though I can pick them out of a lineup of listening.
I can tell you exactly what a few of them sound like. I got no idea what they're called.
Right? Like you hand me all 5 of the Padres CDs or whatever he has, and I could find the songs I'm thinking of.
Oh,
But if you
100%.
asked me to name them before I did that, I might get one just out of blind luck.
Maybe I can think of what like the lyrics to one are, even though they never had lyrics to it. I think I heard the song somewhere else in a different context.
Well, because he had a lot of jazz CDs.
there were a lot of standards back then. This
And-
is something
'cause
that the
there's-
modern music scene has really lost because we're also after original music. There used to be standards, covers that literally everyone would do on
Right.
their record.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that?
The fact that songs could be called standards is so fun to me.
Really? And you had those in multiple genres. There were jazz standards, there were country standards. Like every genre had their own.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if like after fucking like Hotline Bling came out, if everyone was just doing Hotline Bling for the next 5 years? Everybody had a
Side-
version of it.
I'm
Like,
just side-eyeing YouTube
right?
ukulele players right now.
Yeah.
When the hotline bling.
In a way,
YouTube has continued the
shitty
tradition.
YouTube covers are continuing the tradition, aren't they? Because
Mhm.
everyone just covers all the same shit all the time.
Yeah.
They're keeping it alive. That's good.
I
It's
mean,
good
for
that they
every,
do that. It annoys me, but it's good.
Right? For every gimmick, Hayseed Dixie out there that's just like, yeah, we get it. There's 500 to 300 very sincere people on YouTube doing the exact same thing with not an ounce of self-awareness,
whole
and I
chest.
respect the hell out of
They
that.
do it better than Hayseed Dixie, I bet.
No? Sometimes.
Okay.
Hayseed
alright.
Dixie has the good energy to it because they
Oh,
keep
sure.
up with
They're
it.
having fun. Yeah.
Exactly. Like, I don't know. I was just listening to their cover of Gin and Juice recently for some reason, and it's just really good
Sure.
because they got like
Gin and Juice is just a fun song. It's
It
very
is.
easy to
It's-
make it something that's nice to listen
it's
to.
just a good song.
Yeah.
And you know what else is actually shockingly good?
What's that?
Gavin the Ghouls.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so true, so true.
What a
So-
transition. That was fantastic.
So I don't know if you noticed, I immediately hid my Letterboxd diary from you so that you could not see what I was about to talk about because I want to hit you with this
Oh,
one.
you did such a good job. I didn't even notice.
I was so subtle
Wow.
about it.
Incredible.
I watched The Brothers Grimm.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Now that is what
So
Matt
that's-
Damon and Heath Ledger? Am I
Heath
remembering
Ledger.
correct?
Matt
yeah,
Damon
I
and Heath
remember this
Ledger.
movie. It is I do not remember it being good.
Well, I didn't remember it at all.
Oh.
I pulled it out because a friend of mine was over and we were gonna watch Sinister, right?
Sure.
And then we stood and talked in the kitchen for too long while we ate our pizza
It happens.
and realized, shit, it's almost 10. I really don't feel like watching Sinister now.
This is the same thing that happens every time I come over here for any specific reason.
Yeah, pretty much, right? And I'm like, you know what sounds great? Brothers Grimm. I haven't seen that in so long. And they're like, oh my God, I used to watch that movie so much. I remember everything. And
You
then
know
we
what?
watched it. And everything that's happening. I didn't remember that the entire thing was that they were a bunch of shysters who were faking their
Oh yeah.
stuff. I forgot
That's the whole thing I remember.
that Heath Ledger's character kills his sister by believing in magic beans.
Oh.
Yeah, it happens at the beginning of the movie.
What?
Yeah. And then they move on.
What the fuck?
Yeah, because he bought magic beans instead of medicine. Yep.
And he didn't follow through with the whole giant slang thing? Or
No,
like-
no, that part didn't happen. It was just a guy who sold him
Damn.
magic beans.
Okay.
But he was always willing to believe in the fairy tales. And the
What's what that gets?
I
you?
got horrible news for you though. Brothers Grimm is good in one way specifically,
It's
and it's
fun?
the fact it is fun, but it's the fact that every single one of their sets is practical.
Oh, yeah. that
They
makes a
have
huge
practical,
difference.
looks like stonework. They have practical, everything is there and
They've got,
real
like-
and touchable.
Machines and automatons as well, don't they?
Nope.
Or no, like
No,
it's,
they have,
they're
like, gears
devices
and-
that they use that they're like assistant guys like use to fly and pretend to be witches or whatever.
Yeah, they got like gears and pulleys and stuff.
Okay, yeah.
And there's like, like mechanicals in that way, but nothing beyond that.
Oh, okay, sure.
But it's like everything is tactile so that when you have moments of god awful CG like the gingerbread man
Oh,
and yeah,
it's always a gingerbread man.
yeah, being made out of mud. He forms himself
He's
out
a
of
mud
mud.
man. That's
Yeah.
a golem. Holy shit!
Yeah, he comes up like this one's for Sean. You know that one goopy Pokemon? You know who I'm talking about. He's just like, ugh. Big hands up in the air. He's just like, bleh, 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 bleh. He's like perfect.
There's a golem Pokemon.
Well, he's not. He doesn't have legs. He's like a slug man, but he's not
Oh.
Slugma.
He's a slop monster.
He's a slop monster. Yeah.
Okay, that was my favorite B-52 song.
Slop monster. Yeah, that's how the gingerbread boy appears
Okay,
before
I
he
don't
turns
remember
into
that.
the cookie shape. Yeah, no, I didn't either. And then he came climbing out of the well, and it was like, what the fuck am I watching?
That's really something.
Yeah,
So I see here you've given it 3 stars out of 5.
I have, and it's 100% because of all the practical sets. Because I can forgive the fact that this was not a movie meant to be watched on an HDTV.
Oh God, yeah.
However, unlike a lot of other CG reliant movies from now and how bad they're going to look in like 10 years, because you know what CG looks like. Everyone can spot CG in a movie.
Right.
And before anyone says, actually, there's more CG than you realize. Yeah, of course, we all know that there's more CG than we realize, but
It's
the
when it's
good
obvious,
CG is
though.
never noticed. And
Yeah.
then, the Marvel Spectaculars, you're going to look at that in like 10 years and be like, "Ooh, this looks a little rough." Am I right? Yeah, you can tell they really thought they did something there.
I mean,
It's,
half of it, you look at it as it's getting released, and you're like,
I swear to
Lord of the Rings
God.
came out 20 years ago, and their
Yeah,
CG looked actually pretty good compared to
it
this.
did. And oh my God, I swear, when I saw Avengers Infinity War and Endgame in theaters,
Yeah.
I swear to God, Thanos was stuttering on screen.
Holy shit. I did
I
not have
rem-
that experience, but he
and I
is
don't.
very clearly animated from the get.
He is 100% clearly animated, and I just not stop motion, but I remember him moving in a lightly jerky fashion, which I'm
Mm,
sure there's ways that could have been just an error on the projectionist part.
sure.
Who knows?
Or a technical issue that nobody really had any direct
Right,
hand in.
but
Like,
I very clearly remember that, and this is not me remembering Cthulhu's ass in Underwater.
sure.
This is like in the moment. I remember being like, "Do you see that shit?"
Okay, what
And
the
someone
fuck?
going, "Would you stop complaining about the CG?"
Yeah, that's productive. Nice. Okay.
Right.
Sure.
But yeah, the Brothers Grimm still looks good. It is a really good looking movie.
Okay.
The costumes are fun, and it's got what's his ass
When
in
did
it.
that come out? 2005. Oh, okay.
2005.
Yeah.
I was like, "Where's this man?" Peter Stormare is in it as this like psycho Italian
I know
man.
that name from somewhere. What
He's
is
the devil in Constantine.
Oh.
Like the devil.
I've seen this guy in a ton of shit.
You've seen him in so much shit.
I did not realize I'd seen him in this many things because I
He's in
hold on.
Clown.
Hold on. Scroll back up to the top just for a second there. He's in The Big Lebowski. He's in Fargo. I've watched both of those relatively recently. He's
Mhm.
in John Wick 2.
Mhm.
He's in Jurassic Park: The Lost World, which I know that I have seen, but it was a long time ago. He's in
Same.
Minority Report, which I know is the same deal there. I've seen it. It's just a while ago.
Yeah. What a guy.
Why have I never recognized him when I've seen him? What the hell? Okay.
Now, if you were to see him here in this photo of him on Letterboxd, and then now think about the devil in Constantine and how he doesn't look anything like that guy.
It's just the hair and the beard, ultimately. But like,
And then he doesn't
that's
look
enough
like
sometimes.
he doesn't look like this or that.
He doesn't
in,
act like that. And that's
fucking the Brothers Grimm either.
sure.
I don't know. It's really neat. It was a good time.
Huh. Okay. Maybe I like this guy and I just don't realize it.
That is, yeah, with my friend sitting on the couch, just being like, "Oh my God, Peter Stormare," and I'm like, "Yeah, Peter Stormare.
Yeah.
I also know and love him." Yeah,
Huh.
that's that.
Okay.
Good movie. In the sense of highlighting how important physical sets are,
Right.
because physical sets, even though this movie's ass garbage, the movie is still worth
sure, it's
watching
stupid
just
and
to
whatnot,
see
right?
the
But-
physical sets.
Yeah.
It's a very good. Also,
Well, this is kinda
Johnny
like-
Depp was supposed to be in this, and
Oh.
instead he ended up in Pirates of the Caribbean.
Wow. What a better move for everyone involved.
So
Holy
Matt
shit.
Damon's character, you can tell he was written like he left like a week or two into shooting. Matt Damon
Whoa.
looks like a guy who is trying to be Captain Jack Sparrow.
Oh.
Every now and then the way he talks is very clear he's doing a Johnny Depp. The words that are chosen are clear he's doing a Johnny Depp. It's very
If
cool.
you were to if you were to give me the prompt, you have to replace Johnny Depp in a movie, who do you pick? I would never in a million years
No.
choose Matt Damon.
No, never. Literally never. However,
I feel like I keep forgetting that Matt Damon is actually a good actor because I personally am just incapable of taking him seriously.
I just don't like him that much. Yeah, right?
The
He's
first
just-
thing and the only thing that I ever saw him in for a really long time was Ocean's 11, where he plays like the loser of the group.
Yeah, he's just a
So
big
that's
loser
just
nerd.
Permanently the space that he occupies in my brain.
Losing nerder, I tell you.
Yeah.
Man, I'm on a roll tonight.
Yeah, he's a losing nerder.
so true. But yeah, that's my ghoul. I've only watched one movie since we last recorded, actually, and it was
Huh.
well, that's not true. I watched the movie for today.
Well, sure.
But since the 19th of November, I did not watch another movie.
Wow, that sucks.
I know.
You know what I watched?
What'd you watch?
I watched the same movie that Emma talked about on our last episode, When Evil Lurks, and I have already talked about it a little bit in the Discord, but boy howdy, Emma wasn't lying. That evil sure can lurk.
Can it now?
Holy shit. You've got to watch this thing. It's got a little bit of like that like annoying CGI blood that you see every now and then, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, the Saw
But
effect.
an awful the Saw effect. Yeah, kind of. But the like makeup and stuff, the practical effects are all really, really good. And Emma was, I think, doing it justice by saying that it's a really cool take on the whole, like, possession idea. I think it's really good. Also, once again, I also don't want to say too much about it because I want you to be able to go in as blind as you can. But also, however bad you think the violence against the children is going to be, it's probably going to be a little worse than that, actually. Caught me by surprise, even though I knew to expect it.
See, when Emma warned about it, I was just like, oh yeah, there's probably going to be a little
Like,
bit.
oh, sure, there's some violence against some children. No, it's serious.
See, when I hear, oh, there's going to be some bad violence against children, all I remember is the stink everyone threw up when It came out, chapter 1 and 2.
Because of the opening scene.
Because, like, kids were dying.
Kids were dying. That
And it's
kid
like,
gets
oh my
his arm
God,
ripped off.
kids can't die. Not in movies.
And the movie's mostly kids. It's I don't know what you expect.
Yeah.
Also, it's really funny to hear anyone saying that when the big complaint that you hear from horror fans so often is stop putting kids in movies if they're not gonna die.
I'm kind of with that, right? Like,
I don't like that as a criticism personally.
Well, no, it only because if it is a consistent enough thing, it's a little bit of a bummer to know automatically a bunch of stuff that might end up happening.
But you don't
And
know
well,
that,
Evil
though,
Dead
is
Rise
the
really
thing,
worked for
like-
me. Is I saw a bunch of kids and I'm like, okay, cool. They're all gonna survive.
Yeah, you expect
I
all
was-
the adults to die in that one, right?
Every single one of them.
Yeah.
And then that is not at all what happened.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah,
a bunch of kids died. In fact,
multiple kids.
and I don't know. I guess there's a difference between teenage kids and child kid.
Sure.
And some of it, I don't want to see.
People are talking about like small kids when they're having this criticism.
That's
though, is
I don't want to
thing.
see like 5-year-olds getting murked, and that's like I guess everyone's over here like Pet Sematary did it, and it's like yeah, because it was a shock thing, you know.
Well, I
It's also
think
the
it's
story.
like anything
Stephen King
else.
did
If
that.
you try and lean on it too hard, you're gonna end up running out of steam with it, or you're gonna just make it really distasteful.
That's another thing.
But I
right?
don't like the criticism that like horror movies just shouldn't have kids in them if they're not gonna die. I hate that. I think that's a really brain
fully
dead
walk
take,
past-
honestly.
walk back my take.
Also,
It is brain dead.
one of my
100%.
takes is kind of an opposite thing where I'm
Mhm.
like, stop putting dogs in your movie if it's just so you can kill them.
Yeah, no, that also.
I'm sick of that shit.
Because I don't necessarily want to have a dog just hanging around because there was
I want the dog to be there for a reason, you know? Like-
a friend of mine on Twitter. Let me walk this back a little bit.
Sure.
I know this guy's wife, and he's a game dev, and he's on Twitter.
I
met him a
wonder
few
I wonder
times.
who you might be talking about.
But he had this thread that he went on for a little while because it was like, what's your controversial video game opinion? He's like, it's really stupid that every video game gives you an option to pet the dog or pet the cat now because that's just kind of
It's pandery.
it's pandery
Yeah.
and if it is not in line with the theme and like energy of the game, it doesn't
Right.
make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Examples being fucking Red Dead.
I was
adding
just thinking of
examples
Red
now.
Dead.
Red Dead makes sense.
I think it makes sense.
It's an immersive
It's
world.
Cowboy Simulator.
It's a cowboy simulator,
Cowboys
and
pet the
you are
dog.
choosing whether you get the option to pet or kick the dog, depending on whether you're a good or a bad guy.
Yeah.
If you kick the dogs as Arthur, just come on over. Let's have a chat. I will not do anything.
You just want to talk?
I just want to talk. But you know, like if I'm playing any other game, frankly, almost any other game, like if I'm playing Baldur's Gate, if it lets me pet a dog, that's fine.
Sure.
That makes sense.
Sure.
Another like game where that's just like it's D&D, right? Like you're like, oh, I want to
Right,
pet the
yeah.
dog, and it's like, yeah, okay, pet the dog. Now
Yeah,
what?
okay.
You know, I don't know. I think some of that is a little too pandery, and I'm not a fan. And definitely,
Can
in
you
the
name a
same
game
way,
where you shouldn't be able to pet dogs?
I'm trying to think because I never try to pet the dogs. I'm not interested in that.
Mhm.
But then there is also a Twitter account devoted to can you pet the dog?
Oh,
and
sure.
I every now and then I see it pop up on my feed, or I used to, before bots were banned. uh, but yeah, jeez, it's just really funny.
Oh, the downfall of Twitter.
But yeah, and it would just be like random ass games where it's just like, okay, I guess.
Yeah.
It would be like Dishonored, for example. If Dishonored had an option where there was a dog and I could pet it, it would feel weird.
Yeah, it's out of place.
I don't want a dog in Dishonored. Just don't put one there.
There's an awful lot that just doesn't fit in Dishonored, ultimately.
There is. Really
There's room
fun
for
game,
one animal, and it's rats.
Rats.
And the rats work for me. That's what makes Dishonored the best game. You can destroy your enemies with just a massive rat.
It is really great. It's like, oh, you can do the good guy ending and there's no rats, or you can be a bad guy and actually summon a sea of rats to eat people.
It's one of the more effective strategies because then there's no body for the other guards to notice.
I love if you're not careful and you're trying to go for like a clean run. If you knock someone out and leave them on the floor, sometimes the rats will find them and eat them.
The
and
rats
it
will
counts
just eat
as
them
you killing them,
Yeah.
and you get the bad ending now.
Yeah. Incredible.
Oh my god, I just realized I watched another movie this week.
Oh, one that you forgot to log.
Okay. No, it's a transition, you buffoon.
Oh no, shit.
It was called House of 1,000 Corpses.
Theme music. Whoever introduces it needs to do the ghost host line from the movie.
Oh god, what's the line?
I'm your host, your ghost host with the most. Awkward pauses in there, of course.
Sounds like it's gonna be you.
Okay. Welcome back to the Casual Obsession Horror Movie Podcast, the horror movie podcast where we talk about horror movies. I am your host, your ghost host with the most, Jeff, and I am joined in the studio today by only one What did you say your name was?
Well, I'm your host, your ghost host.
Oh,
with the most.
Well, now hold on. We can't both have the
Dr.
most.
Wolfenstein.
Oh shit! You remembered the whole line. It's Dr. Wolfenstein.
I love in the beginning. There's the Dr. Wolfenstein, and then the guy comes in and he does his line. He's like, Dr. Wolfenstein, and it's like, hey, you guys couldn't get on the same page, announcer man and Dr. Wolfenstein.
I love that as a segment that just keeps coming back in the movie, though. Anyways, we watched House of 1,000 Corpses.
We watched House of 1,000 Corpses.
Written and directed by one Robert Zombert.
God bless America for giving us Robert Zombert, the Rob Zombino.
It sure is a movie, ain't it?
It is. Okay.
Yeah.
I have this theory about it, right?
Oh, you need to have a theory? I know the truth.
No, okay, so the theory plays in with the truth, but the theory isn't actually a theory so much as my feelings.
Oh, sure.
This is not a movie to be watched. It is an experience to have that is it resides in the visual medium.
It certainly does reside in the visual medium. I cannot argue with that. I think the ideal viewing situation for this movie is pretty similar to the circumstances that you saw it in the bar a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I literally was thinking that. I'm like, this is such a pretty movie to look at the sense of if it's on the screen.
What this movie is perfect for is a situation where nobody in the room is going to be actually paying attention to it. It's like if you've got a Halloween party.
Yep.
And you want movies in the background, this is such a perfect one to have in the background because if you just kind of tune in and out of it, you will never miss anything. And you will get the impression that the movie is just kind of a string of unconnected vignettes, and that's probably a better way to experience it.
Kind of what it's like, right?
Honestly, when we get further in,
this is a hard 21 up party that we are at.
Oh, absolutely, it's got to be.
It's not a fun. There's like
you can't have kids in the room for this shit. No,
because there's fun movies to have on the Halloween party.
This isn't like Texas Chainsaw Massacre that you could show to your 5-year-old to get him into horror movies, right?
Exactly.
Like, you can't do that with this kind of thing.
No.
There's a necrophilia scene in it. I mean, come on.
There's kind of more than one necrophilia scene.
It's
kind of a through line, actually.
It's alluded to in a lot of situations, but there's only one scene where you're really like seeing it happen.
Yeah.
And that was originally longer. We'll get to that later, though. I don't know how to go about doing a non-spoiler synopsis for this shit.
I'm not gonna lie. I don't think we need to. Here's the non-spoiler synopsis.
Spoiler synopsis also, I'm gonna have a really, really hard time just trying to sum up the events of this movie because it's just so
Oh, don't you worry.
everywhere.
I was thinking about this.
Okay, good.
The spoiler-free synopsis is a group of college-aged young people are on
Allegedly.
are on a cross-country road trip where they are, among other things, documenting the sights of backroads attractions.
Yeah, the two guys, the Chris Hardwick guy and the Rainn Wilson guy,
Mhm.
seem to be. They say that they're working on a book that is full of crazy roadside attractions that you see when driving cross country.
Mhm.
It's never clear, like, if they work for a publication that has commissioned this of them or
I
something.
100% don't believe they do. I believe that their
You
entire
think this is just
thing
something they're doing?
I think this is their idea of a breakout novel.
Okay, and they just have their girlfriends with them on this trip for
Well, because they're
some
also going to the
reason?
one girl's parents' house for Halloween.
Right.
I don't know if it's necessarily for Halloween, but they're going there and it's going to be Halloween and they're just going to stay there for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I think maybe this was them
Very
adding...
little about their situation is ever explained, and this
It's
is
very
because
little.
Rob believes that nobody gives a shit about the kids. They're only there to get killed.
I hate to say it, but he is so right. I literally couldn't care less
Yeah.
about what these kids are doing.
And it's very much the Texas Chainsaw Massacre influence there, right? Like this
Mhm.
movie is very, very much influenced by when you watched Texas Chainsaw Massacre on TV in the middle of the night that one time when you were younger.
Yep.
You know, like this isn't necessarily influenced by the movie as it actually sits. It's the
No.
way you remember it when you saw it a
Yeah,
while ago.
it's the way you remember it. And then after Texas Chainsaw Massacre ended, a white zombie music video happened to also play. And that
Yeah.
permanently damaged your memory of the movie.
Yeah. Anyways, though, yeah.
Yeah.
So they show up at Captain Spaulding's place, which
Yeah.
is a gas station and
It's a-
also murder museum.
Yeah, it's a gas station / murder museum / fried chicken spot.
just
and
on the side of the highway.
Yeah, which frankly, that is exactly the kind of roadside attraction I would stop at.
I mean,
I'm getting gas,
Yeah.
and there's an option for the gas station that also has a murder ride and a bunch of like oddities. Deal, you know?
yeah. It is interesting how he just has all the cases of oddities and stuff in the regular storefront area.
Yeah, it looks like they're for sale almost.
It doesn't look like he sells anything normal at all. It seems
No.
like he literally only sells two things, chicken and gas.
Yeah, and
also
the secret
tickets
third
to
thing,
the murder ride.
the experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is his whole shtick, and he's a clown for some reason.
He's Captain Spaulding.
He's Captain
You
Spaulding.
can't be called Captain Spaulding if you're not a clown or some shit.
You gotta be a clown if you're gonna be called Captain Spaulding.
Captain Spaulding at your service. He never says that.
He never says that at all. He should. It seems like something a guy named Captain Spaulding would say, especially him being a clown, but he doesn't.
So I just want to, by the way, I want to get out ahead of this.
Oh, sure.
Last time we did an episode without Emma, I'm not going to say N64 who it was, but somebody said that we accidentally forgot the order of things.
We're
when we did
forgetting the order on purpose this time.
Well, firstly, we did it on purpose last time too, but
Well.
we're also doing it on purpose this time. So I want to get it out there. When we play really fast and loose with these rules, it's on purpose.
And, like, if you had seen this movie, you would understand it's difficult to talk about in a coherent manner
or
for
in
people
a
who haven't
chronological
seen it.
manner, frankly.
The movie's barely chronological. It's got so many damn cutaways in it.
Yeah.
It's an hour and a half long, and it feels as though it's really scraping to hit that runtime because it's cutting
Yeah.
off to these like goofy ass non sequiturs constantly. Most of what we get with our main characters, even, is not really directly connected to much of anything at
No.
all.
And
And the movie makes so much more sense when you find out how it was made.
I was just about to say that. When
Yeah.
you realize this was Rob Zombie's pitch for a Halloween Horror Nights attraction.
Yeah, which then he was just in a room with a Universal
very
executive,
desperate man.
and the guy was just like, "I need a movie. Do you want to make movies, right? You got ideas for a movie?" And Rob, the way I imagine this happening is
Mhm.
Rob is holding his rather large binder that says "House of a Thousand Corpses" on it, and it's all covered with like newspaper clippings from serial killers and stuff, and it
Mhm.
says Rob Zombie down at the bottom,
Yeah.
And I imagine him looking down at this binder and looking back up and saying, "Yeah, I've got an idea for a movie."
Mm-hmm.
And the way he describes it, he then proceeded to just kind of talk out his ass for like 20 minutes, making up a pitch for a movie as it went along based on the ideas he had for this ride or this
Yep.
haunted house deal.
Mm-hmm.
And 2 months later, they were filming.
Firstly,
Like he typed
Ro-
up like a 12-page treatment the next day and sent it to the guy.
because the guy's like, "Oh my god, send me your treatment real quick."
Yeah, and
And he's
Rob
like,
just
"Oh,
like
I'll have it
ran
for you
home and
tomorrow."
wrote it as fast as he could and then sent it real quickly. And within 2 months, they were filming. This movie makes so much more sense when you know that it was that rushed.
Because every scene feels like you're being pushed through Captain Spaulding's murder museum
Kinda.
and seeing a new room
Yeah.
being highlighted. The opening scene is the kickoff for your ride, where Captain Spaulding says some real unfortunate shit.
Oh, it's bad.
And he
It
murders a
was-
man. The
it
fuck your
was-
grandma is a line that was quoted to me far too often back when I was in the band.
I think that's
And
a
it's like-
really funny line, honestly.
It is, but it's like, do you really want to put yourself out there as the person that knows a lot of lines from House of a Thousand Corpses? I don't want to.
I was about to say there's just better lines to be quoting, but I can't think of one now.
Yeah, because fuck your mama, fuck your sister, fuck your grandma, and most of all, fuck you.
Yeah. Honestly.
Because
Those are most certainly the best lines from that scene because they
Yeah.
don't contain any ableist slurs, which is always nice.
yeah. You know what? Let's do a brief detour in our usual system. I want to hit the content warnings before we get into anything else.
Yeah.
Because we already mentioned the necrophilia, I think.
Yeah, there is a bit of that.
But our content warnings include liberal usage of the R slur. There's a
Mostly confined to a single scene, but it's
Mostly
just a
confined to the single
lot
scene.
in that one scene. Oh my
it is a
God.
lot. There's assault throughout.
Oh, absolutely.
Um,
A good bit of sexual violence.
Yeah. Mutilation is occurring. There's a lot
Massively.
of disturbing imagery, like a lot of disturbing imagery.
Yeah.
And when I tell you this movie is like full of a lot of brutal violence, this is not the same level as what you were talking about in your Ghoul,
Oh, sure.
but there's a lot of upsetting violence in this movie.
There's no children involved.
There's no children, but it's all
It's not like
upsetting.
it's not like fun
No.
violence.
No.
It's very gritty. It's very meant to feel bad.
Yeah. And like, I just want to get that out there real quick. Like, I think it's funny that we chose to cover Rob Zombie's House of a Thousand Corpses when Nina was out of town and Emma were out of town, so that neither of them could be here. Because frankly,
They're not going to like it.
They're not going to like it. I don't want to make them watch this movie.
This isn't a movie that I want to make other people watch. It's not
No.
one that I feel good about recommending under most circumstances. You got to be a real particular kind of person for me to think that this movie is going to be like good to watch
Yeah.
for you.
There's a lot of standout characters. There's a lot of standout moments. But before we get into those, let me hit you with the ratings. IMDb is coming in with a confusing 6 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes is coming in with an understandable 21%.
Sure.
Metacritic coming in with an understandable 31%.
Yeah.
Letterboxd coming in with a confusing 3.2 out of 5.
Huh.
I don't think
okay.
this movie isn't really good, right?
I wouldn't describe it that way, no.
But there are a few scenes that I really, really like.
There's enough in it that I like that I can't manage to hate it.
And unfortunately, some of my favorite stuff is from my least favorite character.
Who's that?
I want you to guess who my least favorite is.
Obviously, your favorite is going to be Captain Spaulding.
Of course,
right?
I'm not an idiot.
Yeah, I mean, like he's a Noah-coded kind of character.
Captain
in a lot of
Spaulding
ways.
has got to be like, unfortunately, Noah coded
really,
character.
really.
You take out all the heavy ableism in his opening scenes, which in the later movies doesn't
Yeah.
come up again.
Yeah,
For what it's worth.
well, only a little bit at least.
Yeah, but not in
when
the
it
same
does.
way.
Yeah, very briefly at least. I mean, like all the characters are better in Devil's Rejects. Devil's
Yes.
Rejects is it's the superior movie operating off a lot of the same ideas, and we'll get to that plenty later.
Yeah.
Your least favorite character? Because I feel like you probably don't feel bad about liking Otis.
Otis is the one I feel bad
It's
about
him?
liking.
Oh,
Okay, no,
because you
so
just don't like Baby, I assume.
Baby's fine.
Okay,
Baby's
in
fine.
this one.
Yeah, actually, I don't mind Baby in this one either.
Okay. The
Because-
last time we talked about this, I said that, and you acted like that was a weird thing for me
Okay,
to
so I
think.
would like to, on the record, walk back a take I had.
Okay.
I said
I don't know that you
Sherry
said this on the
Moon
record,
was
actually.
not a great actress. I said
Right.
this in my gabbing of a ghoul.
Yeah.
I would like to walk that back because I forgot that her character in this movie is so different from every other character I have seen her play.
Yeah.
And I did forget that her character in Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 is really like weird and ethereal because she's supposed to be, because she's a ghost
Oh.
or a projection, shall we say.
Sure, sure.
You know, I forgot about that when I was also comparing her to, you know, she's kind of got like nothing going on in that and in Lords of Salem. I walk that back. I would like to officially
cool.
back off on the take that I don't think she's a good actress.
Now, that
because,
said, she's not as good in this as she has been in other stuff.
yes, that
you
is
can
true.
very much tell the lack of experience, and a lot of that is because she actually has never had any intent of being a full-time actress.
That makes sense.
If you look at her IMDb, it is literally all just Rob Zombie shit and like one episode of CSI.
That's funny.
That's really funny, isn't it?
That's really funny.
She has, for the most part, only actually acted in his projects, and she only does it because it's him.
It shows.
She had been in like a bunch of his music videos and shorts that he had directed previously to this.
Yeah.
And she has been in pretty much everything that he's made ever since, but like she was never really into being an actress. She was like a model and a dancer primarily prior to this.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
and this is in this actually also, did you notice this? She's credited as Sherry Moon because she wasn't Sherry Moon Zombie
Sherry
yet.
Moon Zombie yet. It's actually really cute.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw Sherry Moon flash across the front and I'm like, Sherry Moon and
just Sherry Moon.
But Otis,
played by Bill Moseley.
People who love Otis need to be on a government watch list.
You're saying I need to be on a government watch list?
There's people who like Otis because he's a strong character.
Yeah.
In the way that I love him.
I
in
love
this
watching
movie.
Bill Moseley be crazy.
And then there's people who love Otis and wear the Jesus is a cunt t-shirt or whatever the hell he wears in
That's
the
Cradle
third
of
movie.
Filth, dude.
No, shit.
That's a Cradle of Filth shirt.
No. There's something else here. Half a sec.
Does he wear a Cradle of Filth shirt in 3 from Hell?
No,
I haven't watched 3 from Hell yet. I've got to.
Oh, Jesus loves you, but I don't. Go fuck yourself.
That's really funny. But
Yeah.
like the thing about Otis is that he's like 50% Charles Manson.
Yeah.
Always. Like do you know how much you know about Bill Moseley?
I know that he loved Texas Chainsaw Massacre so much.
Yeah.
That
he ended up in the sequel.
That he ended up in the sequel because he's like, no, look, I can do the Hitchhiker.
Yeah. Have you heard the whole story there?
Yeah, didn't he
He and his friend made a video that was just him fucking around pretending to be the hitchhiker from original TCM, and Toby Hooper, I think, just like happened to get sent a copy of this video by somebody who saw it and thought of him.
That's so funny.
And he was like, yo, this guy's good. We should get him for the sequel that I'm going to make now. And that's why Chop Top exists.
Mm-hmm. It's great.
And if you've seen that and you look at the way that he's acting in this, you can kind of see that it's like a little bit Hitchhiker and a lot of Charles Manson is most of what the character is. He becomes a lot more his own thing in Devil's Rejects.
Very much so.
But he doesn't lose that Charles Manson-ness. Actually, he only looks more like him.
Looks a lot more like him.
He talks a little bit less like him.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
He gets his own thing, really.
Otis's cutaways in this movie are so strong because it cuts to him and he's just doing these really powerful monologues.
About nothing. He's just ranting about how important he himself is, which is very Charles Manson.
Mm-hmm. He's so important because he's a free thinker and people are afraid of free thinkers. And he is one of the true great minds out there kind of guy. And it's like, you listen to this guy talk and it's like, shut the fuck up, man. Shut up. I'm begging you to shut up.
If you heard anyone talking like this, you would assume they were on a pile of drugs.
Yeah. No,
and he almost definitely is.
100%. So yeah, he's my least favorite character.
Okay, I full on love him in Devil's Rejects because of just the way that he fucking is. In House of a Thousand Corpses, though, dude's a fucking gremlin. Oh my god.
Oh my god. Yeah, he's a mess, and everyone else is in the movie.
Yeah, they sure are. I'm disappointed, honestly, in House of a Thousand Corpses with how little we get from Sid Haig being Captain Spaulding.
Yeah, we get him in the beginning, for his really strong opening.
Yeah, he disappears for the whole middle of the movie.
And then he comes back at the end.
Just a little bit at the end.
Yeah, sure, he's in the middle. Okay.
Technically.
He leads to my favorite scene.
He doesn't have anything to do in those scenes, though.
No, he has nothing to do. He's just there.
Yeah.
And he's there. But I'm giving this movie a 6 out of 10. I'm contributing to the slightly too high rating that it has
Okay.
on Letterboxd because I really think as an experience, this movie is kind of something.
If you know to go into it expecting something that's going to be a little weird,
Mhm.
something that's a little off from your usual
Yeah,
expectations.
you're sitting down and you're watching something that's kind of upsetting.
Yeah.
But like not in a it's not me sitting down to watch Inside, the
Oh, the new
fucking
French
French
Extremity?
yeah, the new French
Ugh!
Extremity classic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you got to be ready going into that shit.
I was
That's
not, but I also
oof.
was. I also have the American remake. We got to watch that sometime because I want to see how gutted it is.
I got to watch the original first.
I
But
have that too.
yeah, I keep meaning to watch that and like Martyrs because I feel like I should be familiar with them, right?
Right? Like
But at the same time, I'm like, God, I have such a rough track record with enjoying French movies,
mhm.
and especially movies from the new French Extremity as like a genre. Because like,
Yeah.
I've mentioned High Tension, directed by
Mhm.
Alexander Aja, a number of times on this show. It's like it's got some shit going on in it, but it's not like good. Is
Yeah.
the problem? You know, Alexander Aja has this thing where his shit looks really good, but nobody should let him touch characters ever because he doesn't get them, I don't think.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I get that. Not with him specifically, but I'm thinking of a few people that just like shouldn't be allowed to write people anymore because it's like, have you
Hmm.
ever met a human?
A lot of people think Rob Zombie is one of those people.
Which is really funny because Rob Zombie is the master of creating a character. Because
After House of a Thousand Corpses.
yeah, yeah.
Big
And by
caveat there.
when I
House of
say a
you can
character, I
really
mean like a
tell-
caricature.
You can really tell House of a Thousand Corpses was the first movie he ever made. And you can really tell from watching Devil's Rejects that he had 5 years in between making them to figure out what he actually wanted.
Which is so funny because the movies were released a tight 2 years apart.
Yeah, that's the thing. So House of a Thousand Corpses got filmed and whatnot in 2000 on that really rushed schedule that I was talking about before. And then the studio saw the finished product. Well, actually, on the way to finishing it, right? They ran out of money, so they shot an ending that sucked on purpose. Rob's plan being to show it to the studio, and when the studio said,
This sucks.
this is cool and all, but the ending sucks. What's the deal with that? So he at that point his idea was to say, that's because we ran out of money, and if you give us a little bit more budget, here's what I'm gonna do with it. And it fucking worked. And that's why Dr. Satan looks so much more expensive than everything else in the goddamn movie.
That is so funny.
And that's also why you only get him for like 2 minutes.
That is so funny.
That's right. People who haven't heard a synopsis of this movie yet, there's a guy named Dr. Satan.
Yep.
And he should be the whole movie.
Let's
I'm consistently angry that we don't get more of him.
hit
But,
me with your rating, by the way.
Yeah, okay, but like, yeah, just to finish my timeline here real
yeah.
quick first. After that happened, the studio looked at the full finished product and they said, we're really worried that the MPAA is going to give this an NC-17. We're going to shelve this for a little while. 3 years later, Rob Zombie was able to repurchase.
Post 9/11.
3 years later, Rob Zombie was able to repurchase the rights to it and release it through Lionsgate, cut down to the hour and a half that we see now. So that means it's
There was
not
more?
it's not cramming for runtime. It's been cut down.
What shit did this man pull from this movie?
I can tell you some of the things that were cut.
Hit me with some of it. After, I want to hear your rating.
I have had such a hard time coming up with a rating for this, as I so frequently say, right?
But
'Cause
this one
is a
really
movie
is
that is
a
actually
bubble.
really difficult to describe whether I like it or not, because
Yeah.
I cannot in good conscience say that it's good.
no.
I would not recommend it to almost anybody except as a curiosity for people who are ready for it, right? I can't hate it.
No.
Maybe it's just that I love Rob too much.
Yeah.
Maybe I give him too many allowances because I watch a movie that the guy who made all that music I like made, and I feel like that's something my friend did, and I don't want to shit on it. You know, like that's my pal who made Dragula. Leave him alone. And what is this if not Dragula the movie? You know,
Yep. I mean,
but
the Dragula is even
it's
featured
even
in the movie.
there, and you know he put that in there as a reference to his own goddamn song.
You know he did.
Also, he made the song House of a Thousand Corpses for the opening credits sequence of this movie. God damn it. Like, he puts so much into this of just like himself and all the things that he loves. And that's the reason it's such a hodgepodge of things, right? Because he just loves all that 50s, 60s, and 70s horror and monster movie shit. I got no idea how to rate this. I think I'm going to also give it like a 6 because it's like, I don't believe it to be a total loss.
I don't think
I'm
I think
gonna
if
watch it
you,
again.
If you rate it a 1, I get it, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like VHS, right? If someone tells me that it's the worst movie they ever watched, I'm like, yeah, I
But
get it.
like
If someone
the
tells me that they
only
really loved it, I'm like, yeah, I get it.
I will demand an ounce of respect for it in like what the fuck it is.
Yeah,
And for
nobody else is
one
doing this
scene
shit.
specifically that I'm so excited to bring up in a second.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
Let
So
me
I think I'm also giving it a 6 as my final number there.
let me hit us with the spoiler.
Yeah.
Which is honestly also really hard to do because what
It's
ends up
so
happening
hard.
is Spaulding directs these kids after they go through his murder house.
The Murder House has presentations on what's his name, Albert Fish, who's
Albert
a
Fish,
sadomasochist cannibal murderer.
Ed Gein.
Ed Gein, who everyone knows about Ed Gein, and then he starts talking about this guy named Dr. Satan.
Yeah, Lizzie Borden was featured for like 3 seconds.
There's a handful of
They
things
like
that they just kind of
walk
zip
past
past
her,
real quickly.
and then
The
Spaulding's
ride
like,
comes
Dr.
across.
Satan.
The ride comes across as being like disappointingly short, which I think is
Yeah.
really funny.
Oh yeah, no, it
for how
feels
much it
so
gets
short.
hyped up.
Especially when Spaulding ends it with, "All right, that's it. Exit out the door.
Yeah, that's it.
Gift shop."
Yeah. And then the Chris Hardwick guy goes and like convinces him to tell him because he said that Dr. Satan was a local guy. He was a master surgeon who worked at an insane asylum. And he believed that he could create some sort of master race from the mentally ill, which makes no goddamn sense from any Nazi eugenicist angle. So, and Dr. Satan, spoilers, is revealed to be German at the end of the movie. It's obvious that that's the indication Rob is trying to make because Rob makes enough Nazi references in his music and stuff, not because he's into that, but because it's just something that's fucked up and he likes referencing things that are fucked up.
Yeah.
You know, the Nazis that he references are werewolves, just to be clear. Like, you know, these aren't real Nazis.
What is that like fake trailer he shot? Nazi lesbian werewolves or
Werewolf
something?
Women of the SS. He
That was it.
actually made an entire short, and that has Sherry Moon Zombie in it as one of the werewolf women of the SS, I believe.
Yep.
He wrote a song about that as well.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But
But yeah, he says that this was local to whatever area they are in, and that a mob went and hanged Dr. Satan from a tree, and the tree is not far from the place where you now sit. Dun dun dun.
exactly, you know what everyone says, except this dude believes it. And he's like, "Oh my
He's
god,
so into
it's not
Dr.
far from here."
Satan.
He walks out. He's like, "Dr. Satan,"
Oh,
and
Dr.
everyone else is like, "Chill, dude. It wasn't that
wasn't
good." And he's
that
like, "You don't have to
cool."
play it down just in front of the girls. Come on, that was the sickest thing that's ever happened to us." And
He's so
no one
into
agrees
it.
with him.
It's
and
his fault that
Spaulding
the entire
also-
rest of the movie happens.
It's his fault that every element of the movie happens.
Every
He
single
puts in
piece.
$1 or $2 of gas.
Yeah,
and
so
that's
then
why
they
they
had
need
to
to
stop
get
at
gas
Captain
because he was
Spaulding's.
like, "Do I look like I'm made of money? Touch me. Am I made of money? I couldn't afford to fill up a whole at the time. What was it? $10 in gas to fill the tank? Go fuck yourself, man."
Yeah, it's 1977 that this movie is set in.
Yeah.
Surely $3 would fill your tank. I didn't.
Yeah.
I don't know. That was 20 years before I was born, just about. So like,
Right?
seems like gas was pretty cheap back
And
then.
he
though.
insists that they go and try and find Dr. Satan's like the Deadwood, they call it.
The Deadwood.
What a name. And none of his friends are into it. And
Captain
Spaulding
Spaulding
also
doesn't wanna
isn't into
tell
it.
him.
He's just like, "Listen, kid, it's a story.
Leave it alone.
Just shut the fuck up and go away. Take your chicken and leave."
I love the scene though, like the little moment when Captain Spaulding finally is like, "Fine, okay, I'll draw you a map," and he tells him the directions real quick. Just draws a set of lines on a piece of paper, hands it to him, and he says, "Yeah, now here, take your chicken. Don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out." And the guy is still just so excited, and he's like, "You're gonna get a great write-up for this."
Yeah.
And Spaulding's just like, "Yeah,"
And this is
and just
also
about pushes him out the door.
this is after Spaulding has already like given them very scary vibes because he's like, "Oh, you think I'm a stupid country hick and that's why you're writing about me, huh? You think we're too stupid to understand the joys of the big cities, so you're trying to shine a light on our little poor country folk ideas of a good time and make fun of us." And he's so scary in that
He's
scene.
terrifying.
He looks like he's about to kill them. And
Yeah.
what do we refer to Dead and Lovely as?
Dead and
Podcast we
Lovely?
like.
Yeah.
Dead and Lovely.
Yeah, big fan of
Um,
those guys.
They talked about this and they're like, people need to, when they say none of Rob's characters are real people, you got to get out more and meet a bunch of old cokeheads that live in the mountains, because this is what they all act like. They
Yeah.
think it's funny to make you think that they're gonna kill you.
Yeah, when
They
the Dead
think
and
it's the
Lovely
biggest
guys
joke.
talk about this, they're like, "I've met this dude, like,
Yeah.
I've
Like,
met half of these people actually."
mhm.
Like Ben told it was either Ben or Steve told a story about someone that they used to buy weed from and how like the house in this movie is very familiar from that experience because it's just like, well, yeah, that's where you go buy your really cheap weed and you just get
Yeah.
out as fast as you can.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, I'd love to own this house. Outside of all, like, the babies in jars, it's sick as hell.
I mean, it's just the one baby in the jar, isn't it?
No, there's a couple in Otis's room.
Oh, well, there's lots of things in Otis's room, and I don't think I want any of them,
No.
frankly.
No.
Just too many corpses.
Too many corpses.
Too many.
Approximately
It's like there's a
1,000.
lot of them. I don't know how many exactly, but there's like a lot of corpses in this house.
House of a lot of corpses. That's what I would call this movie.
I would call it the house with a whole bunch of corpses.
The bus that couldn't slow down. And-
So they head out to try and find the old Dr. Satan hanging tree, and they
Yep.
pick up a hitchhiker, and that's Sherry Moon Zombie.
That's Sherry Moon Zombie. She's like, hey, chewing bubblegum, popping bubbles kind of vibe.
Not
And-
volunteering any information whatsoever.
Like-
She never says anything without being asked, and
Yeah.
I know that it's a choice. This is one of the things that people hate about her and say that she's a bad actress for.
Literally, that's the script.
It's
What
very
do you
clear that she
mean?
was being instructed to do this, right?
Yeah. She was not saying because she is playing a mysterious, hard to get flirt, trying to get them all to her house.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, my house is really close. And they're like, oh, we're actually looking for the Dr. Satan tree. And she's like, I know all about that.
It's
I know
right
where
by
that
my
is. It's near
house."
my house.
Yeah.
And then she gets in the car because they're going to take her. And they're like, so tell us about the dead one. She's like, what's that? And
Yeah.
the girls are so mad that they picked her up because they're like, she clearly doesn't know anything. And they're like, no. And they're like, the Dr. Satan tree. She's like, oh, yeah, it's near my house.
It's heavily implied that the guys both go along with whatever her bullshit is because she's hot,
Yeah.
and the girls are really annoyed by this.
Oh, yeah. No, they're very, very annoyed about it. And then they get their tire shot out by Baby's brother, RJ, Rufus Jr.
RJ, yeah. He's
Mhm.
just by the side of the road,
He's
shoots out the tire.
Yeah, he's about 7 foot of muscle wearing a bear skin.
He's wearing a bear skin. What the fuck? We never get any information about this guy.
He's just like the coolest guy.
He kind of is. He's just the coolest guy.
Later in the movie, when he just kicks the door open and goes, "Car's done."
Yeah.
It's great. But they end up. She's like, "Oh, my brother, he has a tow truck. So I'll send him to go and get your car, and he can get it all fixed up for you."
Also the guy who was so interested in finding the hanging tree, it's revealed the reason they don't have a spare tire in the trunk is that
God.
he remembered to fill it up with air, but then forgot to put it back in the trunk.
And he had the gall to say, "Well, I did what you told me to do, bitch.
This man,
You
this fucking guy.
this fucking guy." So Rainn Wilson and Sherry Moon go back to the house of many corpses.
and she makes him some hot chocolate
she
with a
makes him
lot of
some-
marshmallows in it because that's what makes it fun.
That's what makes it fun.
That's what she says.
And because he's waiting at the door, and he's just like, "Oh, so where's your brother?" And she's like, "Oh, he already left to go get your friends."
He's been waiting outside the front door and didn't see anyone leave, and
Yeah.
he's just like, he left?
It's been 10 seconds since she
Yeah.
went in the back door. And then she drags him in and she steals his glasses and she's flirting with him. And he's really being like really uncomfortable about it.
She was so
obviously.
right to steal his glasses, though, because
He looked so much prettier without his glasses.
Well, and the frames honestly do a lot for her face, actually.
They do. It actually reminded me of Lords of Salem because she wears glasses in that.
Actually, yeah. Sherry Moon Zombie just has this thing where she looks really cute with glasses on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways.
But yeah. RJ tows the car and brings everyone back to the house. The girls are very mad that Baby is flirting with everyone. Baby also is pouting because she was turned down.
I imagine she must not be used to that, I guess.
She must not be.
She's also very annoyed that her mom comes downstairs and
Mama
starts
Firefly.
flirting harder with the guy that she wasn't flirting with.
And she's doing great, and he's flirting back, much to the annoyance of his girlfriend.
Yeah.
She's pissed.
And I love how Baby is just like rolling her eyes every time her mom talks.
And her mom's like,
when
"Baby,
she,
go
as
get
though
dinner
she
ready."
wasn't doing the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Like,
And she kicks her out to go prep the dinner table, and she just throws the glasses back at Rainn Wilson, whose girlfriend realizes that Baby was wearing the glasses and is so mad.
understandably.
They eat their dinner. Everyone gets together. We're fast forwarding a little bit. Tiny is
You have to.
introduced.
You have to.
Grandpa is introduced. But like,
Tiny, now hold on, we do have to get into what Mother Firefly describes as Tiny's backstory. She says he doesn't hear very good because of some damage that occurred to his ears during a fire. And she says that it's because of his dad, Earl. And everyone's like, hey, what the fuck did he do? And she's like, well, don't get me wrong. Earl wasn't like a bad guy or anything. He never hit me or anything. But like, there was just this one time he tried to burn the house down with all of us inside it. And Tiny was in the room where he started the fire.
Yeah.
And we get this flash back to when Earl was starting the fire, and he's dumping gasoline directly on Tiny.
yeah, 100% just like drowning that boy in gasoline.
And it's not clear from the story she tells what happened to Earl after that. And don't worry, it doesn't come back or anything.
No, not at all.
But because of this, Tiny is covered in burn scars and he's mostly deaf.
Yep.
But he's huge and very, very strong.
Yes. Great guy. Love Tiny.
Cool dude.
Hometown boy. Westchester,
Yeah.
Pennsylvania. Not actually
Westchester.
hometown.
I don't know where Westchester is.
It's
but
about
like,
6.5 hours from here.
Pennsylvania. Hell yeah, Matthew McRory. R.I.P.
R.I.P. What a guy.
Yeah, his final performance in a movie was Devil's Rejects. And actually, the grandpa in this movie, Hugo, he's played by shit, why can't I think of what his name was? Also, his final appearance in a movie. That's why he's sitting down for almost all of his scenes in this.
I wondered why he wasn't in Devil's Rejects.
It's because he actually was already dead by the time this got released because
Oh my
of it
God.
getting shelved for 3 years.
That's wild.
Yeah. It makes his comedy routine really hit differently, doesn't it? Because after the dinner, everyone is made to put on masks in order to eat their dessert. And
Can't do that
they
with your
ask-
regular walking faces.
You can't do it with your everyday faces. And while this is happening, they ask questions about Dr. Satan, at which point Otis finally joins them at the table. Now, Otis, we have seen in a couple of isolated scenes up in his bedroom where he is terrorizing some kidnapped women.
Yep.
Just ranting at them about how he's important and other such Charles Manson-ish things. He has now finally joined the rest of the family at the dinner table for dessert, and he has brought, I assume, the preserved embryo of like a sibling of his.
I assume, yeah.
Because Mother Firefly kisses the jar and stuff, and it's like, I know it's later implied that Otis was like adopted into the family. Which makes me wonder about like how related any of them are actually, but like whatever.
It also makes a lot of their routines make more sense if they're not blood relatives. It makes you more comfortable, maybe.
A little
shall
bit.
I say? It's
not fully
good.
comfortable, but not like, yeah. Anyways, though, we'll
Yeah.
get to that. So they're asking questions about Dr. Satan. Otis shows up and he's like, I know everything about what you're asking about, and it's better off if you just don't know. And they, of course, don't take that for an answer. And Otis very rightly says, I bet you would stick your head in a fire if I told you that you could see hell, which is a great fucking
It's
line.
a great line.
This is the stuff that I love about Otis. He's just always got these really raw lines about this shit.
Yeah.
So
They start to do their routine.
yeah, he stalls them from finding out about Dr. Satan, and then Grandpa, Hugo, gets up and says, it's showtime, and they all head to the barn. There's like a big, like, it's showtime, like, title card pops up. The directing style, it's very obvious what Rob is shooting for is kind of like a Tarantino kind of thing, right?
It's
just with a different set of influences feeding into it.
It's a Tarantino thing, and then also it is you rounding a corner in the funhouse where a big light up billboard that says it's showtime with chaser lights going around.
And
is
if you've
happening.
seen a Rob Zombie music video, it's going to be very familiar because a lot of the way that this is directed is very music video director type choices. But then it takes us out to the barn where Grandpa is doing this. I guess it's supposed to be a comedy routine.
You can tell because he's stomping his foot and pointing and being loud that it's a comedy routine.
And the Chris Hardwick guy is laughing his ass off for some reason.
Yeah, no one else is
No one else
laughing.
is remotely amused because nothing that he's saying is funny. It's just disgusting, actually.
Yeah. And then Baby goes up and
she
just
does like a drag lip sync performance, kind of.
It's not drag.
It's not really drag because she's a woman dressed as a woman, but it's very much a drag kind of look.
It kind of is.
And it is a lip
And
syncing performance.
Yeah, it's a Betty Boop song.
Yeah.
And she starts to like pantomime being all flirty with the boys.
And also with a mannequin that's sitting in a chair next to them, which
Yep.
is really funny to me.
It is, but the girls are not down with this.
Obviously.
To the point where one of them actually throws hands and almost
Throws her down onto the ground, calls her a whore. Yeah.
And then baby pops up and pulls a switchblade and says, "I'm gonna cut your tits off and make you eat them."
Now, the dress that she's wearing, where the fuck was that knife?
Same place that Link's bombs and arrows and swords hide.
Okay. Baby is canonically on the same level as Link, is what you're saying.
Yeah, a
I
bag
think-
of holding
you know what?
hiding right
I
behind
don't
her.
doubt that she could defeat Ganondorf, actually.
Yeah,
But she would get distracted seducing Zelda, I think.
would she seduce Zelda?
Based on...
I don't think Thousand Corpses baby would do that.
Fair.
I think Devil's Rejects baby might.
Devil's Rejects baby might not be able to kill Ganondorf, actually.
I don't think that she could.
I think House
Devil's
of a Thousand
Rejects
Corpses
Otis could though, and
could and would. He couldn't be
Corpses
stopped.
Otis would not.
He would... Devil's
not.
Rejects Otis
would,
would
but he
see
couldn't.
Ganondorf as a stand-in for Captain Spaulding, and he would kill him on sight.
Yes.
Anyways, so baby threatens to stab this girl. Well, she threatens to cut her tits off, is what she says.
Yep.
But Mother Firefly stops her and says, "Remember what I told you," and gets cut off as well. The kids
When-
decide to leave.
Yep, because that's when RJ kicks the door open saying, "Tire's done."
And yeah, they decide because they can leave, they're going to leave just as fast as they can. And they do.
And then they are stopped by a gate and they are captured.
They drive past a bunch of crosses with what appears to be roughly crucified corpses. Maybe.
Maybe.
They might be dummies and scarecrows and such.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a bunch of crucifixions that they're driving past. And then they get stopped by, what, Tiny and Otis and some other people?
Yeah, Tiny and Otis.
And they get dragged out of their car.
I kind of assumed that it was the two goons from Spalding's.
Oh, probably, yeah.
You know, the guys in the big masks.
Ravelli and the other guy, the giant, Anton LaVey looking ass masks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which actually, they use one of his poems, Anton LaVey,
God.
from Anton
is-
LaVey, who might be known for to some of our listeners as the founder of the Church of Satan.
Is that the eulogy that Otis reads?
No,
Oh,
it's we'll get to it.
Okay. So I'm gonna fast forward some of this movie now.
Yeah, so
because
cut to the morning. Rainn Wilson is dead. He's been made into a fish boy merman
boy.
thing
Mhm.
by Otis, who is showing a little bit more of his like artistic side, which is another one of those holdovers from the Hitchhiker from TCM.
he's actually very excited because these kids are his first stroke of artistic genius in ages.
Yeah, he says that he's had a significant dry spell up to this point.
Mhm.
So
And he's
glad
over
that he's
the
broken
moon.
that. So
Oh,
happy
he's
for
so
him.
happy. But let's see. The one girl's parents definitely notice that they are not around because
Right,
they're
because she
they're
called him.
fucking missing.
She called her dad from a payphone and told him that they were at a place called Spalding's outside Rugsville. And he remembered that. And when they never showed up, he calls the cops near Rugsville and says, "You know about Spalding's?" And the cop's like, "Yeah, I know Spalding's. I'll go check on him." He doesn't say it like that, but they go
He
and they
almost
check,
does, though.
And Spalding doesn't want to talk to him, and they kind of like lean on him a little.
And he's just like, "Listen, the kids came in and I fed them a bunch of that tired Dr. Satan crap. You know, tourist shit. That's all I did."
Yeah, and then he's
And
like,
then-
they
and-
wanted to know about the tree, and I drew him a map, and I bet they got lost, is what happened.
Yeah, he's very pissy about it. He's like, "What are you coming at me for? I didn't do anything." The man with two rotting bodies in his murder house, for sure, because he kills two people at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, we see it happen, and he's still cleaning up after that when the rest of our characters show up to the place.
Mopping in his giant clown shoes. So funny.
I love that he's wearing the makeup and the shoes and regular clothes because the murdering got blood on his favorite clown suit, so it's in the wash.
Oh, it's so good. But yeah,
This movie.
so then we get to my favorite scene of the movie. Where the cops show up at the Firefly house eventually, right?
Yeah.
With the girl's dad, because they find the car, right? But the car has a corpse in it, and it's one of the missing cheerleaders from weeks ago that we've heard
With
about earlier.
Trick or Treat carved into her skin.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And was it Trick or Treat or was it Treat or Trick? I think it might have been backward.
You know what? I think I was looking at it like it's like if you're going left to right, it says treat or trick, but if you're going up to down, it says trick or treat. So it's like
Yeah,
you got to
okay.
pick what direction you're reading in.
Cool.
And this ties into the whole like Halloween thing because Mother Firefly has this whole thing where she's talking to them and she's like, nobody's ever too old for the simple pleasures of Halloween. And
Yeah, it's Rob Zombie looking directly into the camera.
yeah, really. And the characters are like, we're too old for Halloween. And she's like, I hope something changes your mind. The way that, like, you know, some old lady might be about Jesus, which I find very funny.
And then she changes their mind about Halloween.
By murdering them. That'll teach you.
Isn't this fun? The simple pleasures of a Halloween.
Nobody's too old for that.
Surely you will not regret the simple pleasures of Halloween.
You won't have time.
But Wydell and Nash,
Naish, who's played by
Naish.
Walton Goggins.
Naish.
Yeah.
Wydell, Sheriff Wydell, and the girl's dad, ex-cop, show up to the Firefly house. Naish and Dad go around back while Wydell distracts Mother Firefly, showing her pictures, and she starts showing him like a baby book, and they're just like chatting,
That's just what she does.
and he's just like, oh yeah, trying to figure out anything he can, but he doesn't
Sure.
seem to think it's them. But then Naish and the dad open up the fucking shed out back, and
it's full of corpses.
It's full of corpses.
It's a shed of about 10 corpses.
Shed of about 10 corpses. And one of them also is alive. And I don't think it's his daughter. I think it's the other girl. But it might be his daughter.
It's not any of our named characters.
No, that's right, because the daughter was down.
They're
in the
all
basement with Tiny.
elsewhere having other things.
Yeah,
done
it's one
to
of the
them.
cheerleaders.
Yeah.
But then, unfortunately
We've
for
been
them,
getting scenes showing us the cheerleaders like dying one by one
Yeah.
and still being like chained together and like all this shit.
Mhm.
While Baby was preparing for her show, there's a scene where she's like, you guys are cheerleaders, but you haven't done anything to lift my spirits since you showed up. And then
It's so funny. Give me a B. Give me an A. Give me a B. Give me a Y. What's that spell? What's that spell?
Yeah.
It's literally the Walter White, you're goddamn right.
She is so Walter White in that scene, actually. Yeah.
Baby.
She's just like, someone
right.
opens the door and gets shot, and you think that of me? No, I am the one who knocks.
God. Meanwhile, Otis is just like sitting in a fucking easy chair in the corner, gripping the armrest, staring at her while she talks because he's just so angry at the world.
How can I arrive a leader of the rebellion from a conformist society? Like,
But unfortunately, Naish makes the mistake of calling in that there's a problem, and Wydell tries to answer and gets shot in the head by Mama Firefly. And then Otis, he kills the girl's dad.
this is the first time you see Otis in daylight and you realize how fucking pale he is.
Yeah.
Not only is his hair white, but his skin is pure white. His eyes are yellow. The whites of his eyes also yellow. He is, once again, such a goddamn gremlin. He's
Yeah.
disgusting.
Rob decided to make him not an albino in
Well, he's
The
not an
Devil's
albino in
Rejects.
this either, because the
No, he
irises
is.
of his eyes are like yellow.
No, but he's supposed to be albino in this
Oh,
one. He's not
okay.
in the next one because he wanted people to take the movie more seriously, and
Sure.
he thought having Otis be an albino would distract from the serious tone he was trying to convey.
He does have a pit of despair, though.
He does have a bit of despair.
Mm.
But this is my favorite scene of the movie, and this is where the movie could end. Just right here at the 1
There's a
hour and
number of
1 minute
points.
point.
There's a number of points where the movie feels as though it could very easily just hit the credits and be done.
There is
This is
it
one
is
of them.
a full, almost a full 60-second as the camera floats back
Yeah.
above this yard while Otis has pointed a gun at Naish's head, making him like gun radio down, hands behind his head, kneeling in
Kneeling.
front of him, and he holds it and holds it.
While I Will
and
Remember You
holds
plays in the
it.
background.
Yeah,
And
as
it just
as
pans
pulls
back and back and back.
and then he shoots him, and it's like holding on this moment of
Because
tension
it's held for so long, you expect
so
him to not kill him
long.
right there, but then he does.
and it stays just long enough for us to see him hit the dirt, and then it moves.
Yeah. Fun fact here.
Mm-hmm.
This entire movie was shot in various locations on the Universal backlot, right?
That makes sense.
The neighborhood that's shown where the like dad lives is the neighborhood that Leave It to Beaver was filmed in, which is insane.
So funny.
Um
And you know Rob loved that.
oh, you know. Okay, but like tours on fucking buses roll through the Universal backlot all the time.
Oh my God.
While they
Someone
were
watched-
filming these scenes where Otis is out there killing the cop, there were times while they were filming these outdoor scenes of the house that a tour would just roll through because Universal didn't stop the tours for this particular production.
As they shouldn't, frankly. Like, this is not a movie
They were
worth
like,
stopping
this
your
is
tours
Rob
for.
Zombie's project. We're not prioritizing him enough.
Literally,
We're gonna keep
they'll
the tours
point him out
rolling.
and be like, this is the Rob Zombie movie coming.
Literally, a tour would roll through and like do a stop where they talk about the history of the house and what other projects it's been used in and stuff. And literally everyone working on House of a Thousand Corpses had to just sit there and wait for the tour to keep moving so they could keep shooting.
I'm so glad that this trivia did not end with the tour watching Otis execute a man in the middle of a lot.
That would be way funnier.
That's what I was expecting this to build into. I'm not going to lie.
I don't know about that, whether that happened or not, but I do know they had to interrupt shooting multiple times because tours were coming through and they just couldn't do anything about it.
And then I think that's the highlight of the movie. That is the scene of the movie.
Oh no. No, not at all. We haven't even gotten to Dr. Satan yet.
That is the
Dr.
second
Satan,
highlight of the movie.
When I think of what this movie should have been, I'm like, Dr. Satan should have been the movie. When you see that guy, it's like, oh, we've been getting ripped off this whole movie because he hasn't been here the whole time.
Him and his big, like, mechanical puppet arms.
Yeah, but we're going to get to it. We're going to get to it.
But
but
everything that leads up to Dr. Satan, not as worth talking about.
Not nearly as good. Honestly, though, I think this is the point where the movie gets good. I think the last third of the movie is where it's doing its strongest work, and I've got a very strong theory as to why that is.
Okay.
I told
is this where the budget kicked in?
The budget thing, yeah. They shot an ending that sucked on purpose because they ran out of money. And I think you can see the points where it's something that got filmed after they were given a pile of money. And I think you can see
Otis's big ass
where...
robe with dynamic angles. Yeah. Okay. I'm starting to see it.
Well, actually, I think the like funeral pyre scene and stuff, I think that's actually all parts of the ending that sucked. Because that's kind of interspersed with the Dr. Satan cave scenes.
Yeah.
But we haven't described that for the listeners yet. Okay, so we get this little montage-y music video bit where the three of our surviving characters are all like tied to this spinning hanging thing in the living room in the house with all the corpses, however many, I don't know.
Who knows?
And the family is gathered around. Some of them are in costumes. Hugo is dressed as a samurai for some reason.
Of course he is.
Mother and baby are both wearing these like white roby dresses, and we've got this like intercut with these like montage scenes of Otis preparing the skin of the one girl's dad as a costume for himself to wear.
Mm-hmm.
And he starts walking down the stairs reciting this like poem. I'm the one who brings the Christmas candy. Who's your daddy? I'm the one who brings the devil's brandy. Who's your dad? And then like mother and baby both start saying the who's your daddy part while he keeps going. And he ends with a couple of the worst lines in the poem where he says like, I'm the one who loves you when you're fucking dead, which is like, okay.
That's the Rob Zombie
The Christmas
part.
candy, the devil's brandy, those are hard lines and I like them. And it just goes nowhere but downhill from there. But the long and short of it is he's wearing this girl's dad's skin, including his face.
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of like, gets up in her face and like tries to kiss her and then finally takes off the dad face and they start talking about he says something else there, doesn't he? But what matters is all three of them are like gagged and wearing these like fluffy rabbit costumes.
Yeah, like very Christmas Story.
Very Christmas Story. It's just that they're white and not pink. But then they take them outside, out back, and they tell them to climb into this coffin that they've got.
Yep.
And they don't want to. And the one surviving guy is like, they take the gag off him and he's like, please just let us go. Please let us live. We won't tell anyone, blah, blah. And everyone laughs at him as makes the most sense, honestly.
Frankly,
like,
I also would. It's
what
like, man,
position is he in to bargain here? Come on.
he's in no position to bargain.
He's wearing a rabbit costume. He doesn't even have dignity here. Like,
yeah, he's literally the reason the movie
I
happened.
understand him saying it.
Oh, yeah.
Because, like, Jesus, can you imagine being in that situation, going through the things that they've all gone through at this point? Jesus. But Rufus Jr. picks him up and throws him down into the casket really hard because he's just sick of him killing time. and one of the girls gets free and runs away, and Otis is going to just shoot her, but Baby says, "No, no, let me go get her." And he's like, "Yeah, all right, go." And Baby
Mhm.
just chases her and stabs her to death a
Yep.
million times. While we get this intercut with a like a sideways cut of Otis just being very redneck and talking about how hunting humans ain't no different from hunting rabbits because all they do is run. And then he says, "Run, rabbit," too many times. And the girl's dead, and they make the other girl. What are either of their names? One of them is named Mary,
I didn't write either of them down. I think I wrote.
and I think she's the one that Baby kills. I think each of the characters' names, apart from the Firefly family, I think each of the characters' names are said exactly like once, right at the beginning. But anyways, they put her into the casket with the other guy, and they put the lid on it, and they lower it down into this pit, a pit full of like despair, you might say. And once they've lowered it down, it's very clear that there's this like bubbling water and mud at the bottom and a cave that leads off the side. And they close the door over the pit. And through this kind of smaller door in the larger door, Otis lowers a single lantern and a tape player that is repeating a couple of lines from a poem by Anton Jandor LaVey. It's called The
Oh.
Poet. And the line that's repeating is, "Bury me in a nameless grave." And there's like another line that plays a couple of times, but then "Bury me in a nameless grave" just repeats a bunch of times. And I think it's like slowing down a little bit gradually, kind of like the battery on the player is like starting to die or something.
Yeah.
And it's super freaky. And then these like monster boys start popping up out of the mud at the bottom, and the characters are freaking out, and they climb out and they get to the like cave as the casket like sinks down into the mud. And then there's more monster boys in the cave, and they take the guy away, and now it's just the girl by herself. And then these creepy old men come back, and they're wearing the dude's like rabbit suit, and she's really, really scared. And they go and they rip the rabbit suit off of her, revealing that she's now wearing this like Alice in Wonderland dress.
Yeah, I think it's the same dress that they had her wearing in Otis's room.
Oh, was she wearing it in Otis's room? Okay.
Yeah. Or in Tiny's basement room, I should say.
In Tiny's basement
Yeah,
room,
when
right.
she was
When
like face painted
that's
with the
I
same
forget
kind of look
about-
as Spalding, actually.
I forget about that scene where
Tiny
she's
was
just
wearing
in
a
the
shirt
basement
that
with
says,
Tiny,
and his shirt says cheap ass Halloween costume.
which is very funny.
Frankly, here's the thing. Every one of Rob Zombie's characters is the kind of guy who thinks Rob Zombie's characters are the coolest guys on planet Earth.
Oh, totally.
In a bad way.
Yeah.
Right? Like all the guys that says Jesus loves you but I don't, go fuck yourself, and like that shirt. I've seen a lot of people in that shirt.
I think this movie is perfect for people who love catching little moments and details, but completely miss any larger overarching theme.
Yeah, like people who
because
miss
that's
the
what
point
this
of
is.
the movie.
This is a movie for as much as we're saying here, we're skipping over 80% of the movie.
Yeah,
Because it's all just in these little irrelevant details. It's
Yeah.
a movie that is entirely an aesthetic experience.
it's hard to talk
with
about
no
in that
actual
way.
themes. Okay, so but she's now wandering through these caves wearing this Alice in Wonderland dress, and she ends up walking through what I think is one of the coolest sets.
Mhm.
Not just in this movie, but in any movie. It's the corpse hallway. It's almost like this house has a ton of corpses in it. and
There's
I don't-
got to be at least a dozen.
There's got to be like a ton of them. It's at least 100, I think.
House of 100 corpses.
Yeah, I would call it that.
Maybe 200 corpses.
Yeah, probably. It's got. I wouldn't doubt that it's 200.
House of
You know,
at least 200
House
corpses.
of at least 200 corpses. Yeah, it's this really long, winding hallway, and it doesn't have offshoots or anything. It's not a maze.
No, it's
just
a
a
line.
long, winding hallway with corpses just lined up the whole way down both walls. And she is so freaked out as she's going through this, and then she ends up opening this big ass door into a room that is decorated with femurs and skulls all over everywhere, and it looks fucking sick.
Looks so good.
And then she opens another door, and who should be there but Dr. fucking Satan?
Dr.
Oh my
Satan.
god.
Looking a lot like the Crypt Keeper on steroids.
The Crypt Keeper. What's that from?
From Tales from the Crypt.
Oh, I have not seen Tales from the Crypt.
Don't tell anyone. I haven't either. But look at this guy.
Oh,
You
yeah,
give
he
that
looks
guy a
kinda like
medical
that.
mask, and that's Dr. Satan.
He looks kind of like that. Yeah. So he's got like no hair on him. He's got like an oxygen mask on. He's got this like it looks almost like puppet controlling marionette kind of things, like, you know, robotic apparatus supporting him in all of his movements, and he's speaking German, and he is vivisecting the Chris Hardwick guy. Who then dies while she watches. And Dr. Satan calls, dun dun dun, Earl, who shows up wearing this like bone armor, and he's got this weirdness to his face. He's got this mask on and goggles and an axe in hand.
Yep.
And Dr. Satan tells him to get her, and she runs off, and Earl chases her and basically collapses the tunnel trying to kill her because he like chops down a couple of like beams that are holding up the ceiling. Tunnel collapses, Earl dies. It appears that the girl also dies, but then she wakes up later, is able to crawl up through a hole out into the daylight, where she is then picked up on the side of the road by Captain fucking Spaulding, who's cruising down the road in his convertible.
And at the time, obviously Spaulding, we know he's a bad guy, but this is our first reveal to know that he actually is working fully with these guys.
Yeah, that he's involved with them at all. And he kind of plays it cool with her for a second, and he's like, "Oh man, what happened to you?" And she's like, "I need a doctor." And he's like, "I'm gonna get you to a doctor." And then Otis is in the back seat, and
the doctor is Dr. Satan.
and we get a cut to her on Dr. Satan's table screaming, and the credits roll.
Yep.
What a fucking movie.
What a fucking movie. And that's the last 30 minutes of this movie goes so hard. It could have ended in the yard scene. I have a note in here.
It could have
when
ended
I
at like
say it
6
could have
different
ended
points.
when Otis shot the deputy, I totally did forget about Dr. Satan.
Oh, yeah. It's easy to forget because he's such a small part of the movie, right? But he's the coolest part is the problem. Okay, so I want to pitch you my idea for the best possible execution of this movie. Because obviously it's got some very serious problems.
Of course.
Not least of which being it doesn't know what it is.
Yeah, that's a big one.
This is a movie that can't decide which movie it is.
And the whole thing, literally, when you watch it knowing it was supposed to be Rob Zombie's Haunted Fun Times ride,
it makes sense.
The whole movie immediately slots into place, and then you have a couple of like standout scenes where he's like, and then I'm gonna cinema. Really just hard all over the place here.
Hard.
I'm gonna cinema everywhere.
So hard. Okay, so
busting fat cinema everywhere.
So Hollywood Steve from Dead and Lovely said that unironically he thought this movie should have been titled like the Firefly Family Variety Hour or something like that, because that is very much kind of what it's going for. And if it leaned into that kind of an idea, here's my pitch. This movie should commit wholeheartedly to being an anthology. We should get a short about Baby, and we should get a short about Captain Spaulding, and we should get a short about Otis, and we should get a short about Dr. Satan.
As if that's not what we already got.
It's so close, right? It's already so close to what we're getting, but I want the movie to know that that's what it's doing.
Yeah,
you know?
that's I guess that's the problem, right? Is this movie is what it is.
But what the fuck is that, you know?
Yeah. But I don't know. I leave the movie and I'm not mad I watched it, right?
Right. Unless you went in expecting a good movie, which that's kind of on you.
I think last time I watched this movie, I rated it a 5. I ended up bumping it up an entire half just because it is so much better to watch.
I feel like if I was given 2 months to turn out a workable movie, I would not make something this good.
I wouldn't make something not even this good.
I would make something this
I could
more
make
consistent
something,
than this.
I think I could make something this good, and I think whatever I made would not have the cultural impact this movie had.
For sure. When this movie came out, people hated it, just to be clear.
Yeah.
And it's actually really funny to hear Rob Zombie talk about this, because he's like, oh yeah, when House of a Thousand Corpses came out, everyone hated it. But every movie that I've put out since then, people say, oh man, he peaked with House of a Thousand Corpses. And he's just been chasing that ever since. And it's like, well, no, nobody thought that when it came out. So pick a side, just quit being a hater.
Literally.
People really are mad at Rob Zombie for making movies, it seems like. And I get that, like, I don't know, people get mad when they see someone trying to be successful in multiple areas, like multiple artistic media, you know? And I feel like that's just not fair to people like Rob Zombie, because like you want to judge him exclusively by this movie, that's not very fair to him. He has other movies out and stuff. Like you want to
Yeah.
judge by this movie, sure, it's not good. But literally with the very next thing that he made, he was so much better.
Jeff, do you mind if I surprise you with something here?
What are you going to surprise me with?
Well, I know we said we were going to talk about House of a Thousand Corpses today.
We did say that, and we have already been
we have
talking
done
about
that.
it.
But what if I threw a wrench in the works? What if we turned this episode into House of a Thousand Rejects?
Damn.
We've talked about Devil's Rejects a lot so far.
We have a good bit, and it feels like it makes sense to just embrace that as part of the podcast at this point.
And I hate to tell you this, but I did actually already do an entire write-up on it because I took notes when I watched this one too.
Hot damn, that is a long and, by the looks of it, scathing review from Roger Ebert.
Oh, don't look at that.
Okay, I will look somewhere else.
I also, for Corpses, I have this little excerpt from the Devil's Rejects review.
Oh, yeah.
Where Ebert says Devil's Rejects has been written and directed by Rob Zombie, also known as Robert Cummings and Robert Wolfgang Zombie,
Oh.
a composer and music video producer whose The House of a Thousand Corpses was a Texas Chainsaw Massacre wannabe.
That's fair.
It's fair. And he's kind
It's
of
mean, but it's fair.
he's kind of mean about it. He's like, and if that doesn't tell you everything you need to know, I don't know what to tell you. But
you know, having seen the movie multiple times here,
mhm.
that doesn't do it justice.
It doesn't do it justice. It's true.
It's a correct
but-
statement. It is not fully true of the movie, though.
Also, it's more of a Texas Chainsaw 2 than it is 1.
it's sort of doing both.
It's kind of doing both.
In a lot of ways. Rob says that they didn't intend for House of a Thousand Corpses to be as much of a comedy as it is. And if you're listening to this description saying, how the fuck is that a comedy? This is one of the things that gets lost in telling
like
and not
when
watching
we
it.
tell you this, like anything about this, you're not seeing Captain Spaulding turn on a dime. And frankly, here's the thing. Laughing makes people think things are funny. Spaulding laughs a lot.
Spaulding
Grandpa
laughs
laughs
pretty
a lot.
frequently.
You know,
Well, and,
baby
like,
laughs a lot.
There's the whole scene where like Rainn Wilson's character is asking him like, well, how long have you been running this place? And he's like,
How
whoa,
long's
whoa.
a piece of string.
Yeah, how long's a piece of
It's
string?
like,
and Rainn Wilson
I
says,
don't
I
know.
don't know. And he's perfectly awkward about this.
Too damn long.
But
he's like, yeah, but
But
for
how
real,
long
how
for real,
long?
though?
And he's like, I don't know. A long time.
Yeah, like I love that scene because I love that interaction. You know, like I feel like a lot of what Rob goes for, and this kind of goes back to the thing the Dead and Lovely guys were talking about with him, right? I feel like a lot of what Rob does with his characters and his interactions between them and stuff is that he wants to bring some representation to a kind of people who are not seen in Hollywood fully.
Yeah.
Because, like, you know, like the whole, like, for lack of a better term, trailer trash deal that he's doing here is something that doesn't get represented anywhere. Because lots of times it isn't perceived as being fun or interesting to watch. But, like, these people exist.
Yep. They exist, and here Rob's showing them off for us.
Somebody needs to do it. Someone needs to make sure that they get shown in something.
Especially because, and I think this is a good thing, that type of
I
person...
100% think this is a good thing, just to be clear.
No, what I'm saying is that type of person is kind of dying out.
Yeah,
Like, people
I think
like
that's
that
a lot of what Rob is thinking.
don't exist in the same way that they used to. And a lot of that is, I've said this a lot this week.
It's
to
gotten
different
less
people.
cool to joke about murdering people.
It's because of the internet. More people are aware of more things and realize, oh, this is not cool and normal.
Yeah.
And people have moved away from that kind of attitude. And obviously everyone is going to be able to point out like 6 or 7 people that actually,
Sure.
yeah, okay, but it's not like they're all old. You don't see a lot of young people like this, which
Well,
is
and, like,
kind of nice.
And what a lot of it has to do with is that so many movies are made by rich people who grew up as rich people or in the vicinity of rich people. And that's why like so much Hollywood shit just comes across so samey. Everyone has the same face. Everyone's got that like, you know, that California actor face.
Yep.
And one of the things that I love about Rob Zombie's movies is he hires people who look like regular people.
They all look, everyone in all these movies look like regular people.
Yeah.
It's great.
They are regular ass
Fucking
looking people.
Goober, the liquor store employee. He's
Tell you what, of all the goofy ass non sequitur scenes, the buying liquor at the Red Hot Pussy liquor store is one of my favorites.
The pornography and alcohol spot.
It's so clearly just a scene that was put in there because Rob had that song that he wanted to play in the background, and Sherry had those like assless jeans to wear in the scene.
Yeah.
It's very obvious that that's all that's there for, but you know what? The scene plays fun enough that I don't care.
I love it. She's just like, thanks, Goober. And he's like, oh, actually, it's a G Ober. G for Jerry Ober. But the new guy in the back, he put in an extra O. And
So
she's like,
says
that's
Goober.
good story, Goober. How much do I owe you?
Like to get fucked up and do fucked up shit.
I like to get fucked up too. Yeah, I bet you do.
I love the way she says that. Just like, yeah, I bet you do.
Here you are,
so-
Goober. Buy yourself a new name tag. But you know that.
And he's just wearing this like fishnet shirt.
Yeah, it's a fishnet fucking white beater.
And the place is lit exclusively by like this bright pink neon.
It's great.
I love it. I love it. It's there for absolutely no goddamn reason, as so much of this movie is. Now, before we get going on Devil's Rejects here, I'm just going to hit you with a couple of things that got cut out of House of a Thousand Corpses.
Hit me with this deletion.
Now, when we were talking about the content warnings, I mentioned the necrophilia scene, which is, of course, the scene where Baby is apparently having sex with what appears to be a skeleton.
Yep.
This was shot, this and a lot of those little cutaways were shot by Rob with a like handheld 16 millimeter film, like home camera.
Actually,
because that's the feel that he wanted
Is
to
it
have.
16 or was it 8?
I think it said 16.
Because
I know this is a thing that he does with all of his filming, right?
He
But-
loves to shoot in a low film grade and blow it up to make it look crusty.
Yeah, okay. So, but with the cutaways, he does this to an extra degree by using like an old shitty handheld camera as well.
Mm-hmm.
And this is how he made the title sequence and a lot of the little cutaways, because that's like the feel that he wanted them to have. And also because like principal photography was already finished, so he didn't have access to the better equipment.
Hey, can I borrow a camera real quick? Fuck off.
So
Okay.
the scene where Baby is the cutaway where Baby is having sex with that skeleton
Mm-hmm.
was originally a lot longer and more explicit and ended up getting cut out of the movie by Lionsgate when he repurchased the rights and went to release it. And I'm gonna be brave and say it. I think Rob might have just wanted that footage for other reasons. I don't think he ever expected that shit to get into the movie.
No, probably not.
Also, though, there is that one cutaway that we haven't mentioned at all because it goes nowhere and has no connection to anything, where this guy is talking about the skunk ape that had impure relations with his wife.
Oh, that guy. I see.
Yes.
When you said that guy, I thought you were about to talk about my favorite cutaway with Louis Dover, the Jesus freak.
I got no quarrel with Louis Dover.
Love Louis Dover.
I think he is perfectly fine as a presence in the movie for the brief time that he is there.
But yeah, a guy whose Bigfoot
Yeah.
had impure relations with his wife.
Okay, so the skunk ape
Oh,
was
I'm sorry, not Bigfoot. Skunk.
it
ape.
legally distinct. Skunk ape is just another term for Bigfoot from people who claim to have contact with it. They say that it smells terrible and it roots through your garbage and such. Anyways,
Damn, I wonder what that could possibly be. Definitely not
any
a
number
bear.
of other animals. The skunk ape was apparently a greater presence in the movie originally.
You know, and that's honestly.
I'm glad it got cut. I
here's the
wish it
thing.
got cut fully.
I didn't mind it as a weird vignette moment because I was fully into.
The movie's
this
rolling
is-
at that point.
Yeah, the
right?
movie's rolling, and I'm like, and this is the side attraction as Rob changes gears.
Yeah, it's just kind of
As
like, yeah,
we
all right,
round another
whatever.
turn of the
Sure.
house.
And like that balance is kind of okay with like the little cutaways that we get when new characters are introduced lots of times. You can tell he's kind of shooting for the Tarantino-ish, like everyone gets their little scene and title card thing, you know. Because like Otis gets that and Baby gets that, Captain Spaulding kind of gets that, you know. Here's another plot thing though. Hugo, the grandpa,
Mhm.
there was originally a plot thread where he was actually Dr. Satan. So when the kids are asking questions at the dinner table and Otis doesn't want to tell them about Dr. Satan, and Grandpa says they want to know about Dr. Satan, so enlighten them while he's still got a mouthful of pie,
Mhm.
that when that line is said,
It's
the
because
plot
he's
is
Dr.
convinced.
Satan.
Yeah, that is written with the plot thinking that he is actually Dr. Satan saying that, and I would really, really like to see how that ending actually plays out.
That's so funny.
For as much
And
as I love the Dr. Satan that we get,
I'm
right?
glad it didn't happen, but that is
It's probably
really good.
better off, right? But yeah, that's some stuff that got cut out. Some of it I think
Wow.
we could have just cut harder. Some of it I wish we could have had a little bit more of it. Some of it I'm like, why do we need a necrophilia scene, Rob? Well, I understand what you're shooting for here, but what do you need to show us so much of it for? Why'd you want to show more?
God, it
It's
is.
weird. It's just weird.
Yeah.
So Devil's Rejects, though.
Devil's Rejects.
The blatantly superior movie, dare I say.
wildly superior movie.
So much better. It's working off a lot of the same ideas and just doing way, 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 way better with them. It's so clear that he had an extra 5 years to actually know what he wanted to do with it and with the characters. And it's very clear also that the actors involved all had more time to work on what they were doing with the characters. Bill Moseley especially, I think.
Oh, yeah. No,
has
Otis is a
so
much more focused
more-
character in this
Yeah,
movie.
he's really on some shit with Otis in Devil's Rejects, whereas it kind of seems like he was just doing shit in House of a Thousand Corpses.
Yeah.
Captain Spaulding is perhaps the most consistent.
Yeah,
because
Captain Spaulding didn't change an
he was
ounce.
already almost perfect, ultimately, you know?
The arms of an angel. Fucking rip Sid Haig. That sucks, man.
Honestly.
What a guy. The Devil's Rejects is a movie that opens up with the Firefly family getting caught by the cops.
It takes place a year after House of a Thousand Corpses, 1978 now.
Mm-hmm.
It has an opening that has a little like voiceover thing that's even more Texas Chainsaw than anything that happened in House of a Thousand Corpses.
Yeah, it's all it's missing is that like scary flashbulb sound.
Yeah. The voice that's doing the voiceover could stand to be a little bit more John Larroquette,
Mm-hmm. It could.
but that's like whatever.
Yeah. It's a good little thing where it talks about the Firefly family, and then we walk in, and you may remember
It's the raid occurring.
you may remember
basically.
Sheriff Wydell, who got capped by Mama Firefly.
Surprise, surprise, there's another one.
There's another one. It's his little brother, who
It's-
is at least 100% less stable than Rock of Justice Sheriff Wydell from Thousand Corpses.
Yeah, original Wydell really seemed like kind of a regular cop type.
He was just a guy, but
Whereas this
not
guy
Wydell
is just
too.
like he's got the cop dial cranked up the whole way. When they're lining up to get ready to do the raid, the one guy says something about trying not to die. And what Wydell says is an immense amount of cop talk, but the meaning of the phrase, like the entire meaning of it boils down to dying's not an option because then you'll be dead.
Yeah.
He says something about getting toe tagged and sent home in a plastic bag, and it all like rhymes like 4 times and shit. But
Yeah.
ultimately, the content of what he's saying is don't die because then you'll die,
It's
which
so
is so
funny.
fucking stupid. It's such a cop thing to say.
Mm-hmm.
This man could not be more of a cop if he tried. But they circle the house, and we get all these shots of the family inside the house, like sleeping. Actually, all of them, and half of them are
House of a
sleeping
Thousand
with like
Snoozers, more like.
half of them are sleeping with like a corpse next to them
Yeah.
in their bed, which is dark as shit.
Yeah.
And not surprising given everything that we know about them.
Mm-hmm.
Otis looks an awful lot more Charles Manson in this one because he's got the beard all grown out and such.
Yep. No, he looks like it looks like a guy that you'd be like, oh, that's Charles Manson. Like that's
Yeah.
who he looks like. Versus Otis, who was Otis. Now Otis is, oh, he's Charles Manson Otis.
But then he starts talking, and it's like, yeah, there's an awful lot of Charles Manson to this, but also Otis does have his own thing.
Otis is definitely still Otis.
Yeah.
I would love to count of the number of times they say fuck in the first 30 seconds of them being awake.
Probably 32.
At least.
Because it's at least 1 per second.
Mm-hmm. And most of them are from Otis.
Yeah, the cops hit him with the bullhorn. They're like, this is your chance to come out peacefully. And the family's like, there's no way in hell we're doing that, right? So they all put on their like beaten sheet metal body armor
Yeah,
and
oh, I
welding
love that
masks and
plate
shit.
steel body armor.
I love it. I love it.
I think only RJ has a full body suit.
Is he the only one that has a
Everyone
full
else
suit?
has a mask.
They've
though,
all
and
got
they're
these
all
like
painted
welding
up.
mask looking deals. Yeah.
Oh, it's great.
Half of them have skulls painted on them, and it's real cool. And then the cops shoot for a really long time, and they throw some tear gas in. And the family is like completely unaffected by this, apparently.
When you're evil enough, tear gas doesn't hurt you.
It just doesn't work. If you've got a welding mask off,
So true.
then like, it's not about filtering the air. It's just about like,
Sending a message. But yeah, they kill a few cops. But
do.
when the cops finally breach the house, RJ kills one last guy and then is shot by approximately 7,000 bullets. And
he had
fucking
the corpse of 1,000 bullets, as
a
it
corpse
were.
of 1,000 bullets in the house.
What else is in that house? The Devil's Rejects.
The
That's
Devil's
what.
Rejects, that's who. But he goes down. Mama Firefly is not handling it well.
No.
But Otis and Baby run away.
They escape out like a tunnel out the
Yeah,
basement.
it's like a yeah.
You get a very brief scene of them running past a bunch of like still current victims in a cage.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then there's talk later of there being like a mass grave full of decomposing corpses, body parts in the fridge, and blah 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 blah. And the news presenter guy is actually doing a fantastic job acting this because he seems so genuinely disturbed by what he's reporting.
Yeah, it kind of looks like they got a real news guy and they told him that this is real news. Let's go.
It feels that way,
Like,
right? And the
it's
channel
really
that he
good.
reports for is called News Update. which-
News update. And then we also get the first needle drop of the movie. It's Midnight
It's
Rider.
Midnight Rider by the Allman Brothers. This movie is so full of Southern rock.
I love this movie so much. I'm not trying to get ahead of myself because my rating comes after the Ebert and the other ratings.
We may as well get out in front of it, though, since we're so deep into the podcast already. We both love Devil's Rejects.
love Devil's Rejects. I would watch House of a Thousand Corpses again.
100%.
I would.
I will.
But I will watch Devil's Rejects again.
I'll
I
enjoy
love
it an awful lot
Devil's
more
Rejects.
when I watch Devil's
And when I
Rejects.
tell you what happens in the movie later, I need you to back off real hard on the judgment train because when I say I love it, I don't mean I condone a single goddamn thing that happens in this movie.
No, it's fucked up. It's a horror movie.
But I think that's what we'll kill with Midnight Rider. We're going to stop the...
Well, under Midnight Rider, we get a montage of
Oh.
Otis and Baby running across the countryside and killing a woman for her car
Yeah.
and like doing all their escaping and stuff while the opening credits roll.
And it's really great.
Yeah.
It's honestly, it's a trend that Rob has considered or continued in many of his own movies
He
since
does
then.
good opening credits sequences.
That's the best part of 31 is the beginning where it's just a bunch of all the people that are about to die underneath.
Yeah, I would say the first couple scenes of 31 are the best scenes of the movie.
Let's
Yeah.
see.
Like the first and last scenes. It's all the shit with Doomhead in it is what
James
I like.
Gang's Walk Away is playing while they just like do like goofy little stuff.
Rob loves that James Gang because they used Funk 49 in this movie as well later on.
It's so good. But yeah, let me pull us back
yeah,
into the
so-
ratings.
Into the ratings.
And when I tell you these ratings, you're going to notice that they're actually not much higher than House of a Thousand Corpses.
Well, some of them.
Some of them. IMDb is a 6.7 now.
Yeah, some of
instead
these are
a 6.
identical just about.
But yeah, Letterboxd is a 3.3 instead of a 3.2.
Yeah.
And
This movie is not just barely better than House of a
no,
Thousand
this
Corpses.
movie is head and shoulders better than House of a Thousand Corpses.
No
but if you
doubt,
look
no
at the
doubt.
rating breakdown, if you look at it, let me pull this up for you. Ooh, acid reflux.
Oof.
If you look at the rating breakdown, it's the fucking same.
That does look the same.
Like, Devil's Rejects leans
like-
better, which
Yeah.
makes sense because it is better.
There's like a higher rise in the mid-range for Devil's Rejects, I think.
Yeah. Like,
On the upper end of the mid-range there.
the 3-star ratings for House of a Thousand Corpses are stronger, but, you know,
but
Devil's
the 4s
Rejects,
are the strongest on Devil's Rejects.
the ratio is just higher on Devil's Rejects, and
Yeah.
like half as many people have logged the movie.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
This is the infinitely better movie. It's so much more coherent. Rob has had more time to know how to be an effective filmmaker. The characters are more realized. The acting is better. The equipment that they're shooting with is better. The
Everything
lighting
is
is way
the-
better.
It looks like a movie. It,
It
looks,
looks-
like Rob
yeah.
it looks like Rob edited the first movie himself. He did not.
Parts of House of a Thousand
then-
Corpses look like they could be from like a late 90s sitcom almost.
Yeah. But then Devil's Rejects is an actual film.
Yeah,
Rotten Tomatoes 55%, Metacritic 53.
way
Like,
better than they were for the other.
Yeah, up by a full 20% each plus.
Yeah.
All right. We got Ebert.
We've got Ebert.
Ebert gives this a 3 out of 4. Ebert liked this
Oh.
movie.
I was reading the words that he wrote, and they are all very unpleasant words. But
Here
he
is
gave
a
it 3 out of
gaudy
4.
vomitorium of a movie. Violent, nauseating, and really a pretty good example of its genre.
Oof.
If you're a hardened horror movie fan capable of appreciating skill and wit in the service of the deliberately disgusting, The Devil's Rejects may exercise a certain strange charm.
Ooh.
If, on the other hand, you close your eyes if a scene gets icky, Here's a movie to see with blinders on because it starts at icky and descends relentlessly through depraved and nauseating to the embrace of roadkill. How can I possibly
Wow.
give The Devil's Rejects a favorable review? A kind of heedless zeal transforms its horrors. The movie is not merely disgusting, but it has an attitude and a subversive sense of humor. Its actors venture into camp satire, but never seem to know it's funny. Their sincerity gives the jokes a kind of solemn gallows cackle.
This is a really, really good review of this movie.
Consider the fact that it's about a depraved family of mass murderers who nickname themselves after Groucho Marx characters, and the sheriff calls in a film critic to give him insights on the pathology. The critic is such a Groucho fan, this is just a little fun aside,
Oh, sure.
such a Groucho fan that he knows Groucho played God in Otis Preminger's Skidoo.
Otto Preminger.
Otto, whatever. Something I also knew, but I bet you didn't. Thank you, Ebert. Go
Thanks,
fuck yourself.
Ebert, for
Of course,
that
I didn't
one.
know that. The sheriff wants to bring in Groucho for questioning, but the critic knows he died in 97. Elvis died.
1977.
What? 77. I'm sorry. Elvis died 3 days earlier and stole all the headlines, he moans, risking death at the hands of the sheriff's department Elvis
Okay.
fans.
The movie critic scene is one of the only like true little non sequiturs in this movie.
It's so funny.
I cannot figure out why it's in there, but goddamn, I love
it's
it.
so that Rob Zombie says, "Yeah, I'm a Groucho Marx fan, and all the characters in my movie are named after Groucho Marx characters."
well, and also like
Bet you didn't know that.
the not to talk about Dead and Lovely too much, but
Mhm.
they kind of thought that having that guy in the movie was kind of Rob. You know how I've theorized that the Friday the 13th movies kind of made fun of their fans at a few times with their incel characters.
Yeah,
They were basically saying that they felt like the movie critic guy in this movie is Rob kind of like shooting back at his critics by being like, this is how you fucking sound, you losers. Shut up. I know all this stuff. You should know that I know all this stuff. Stop telling me this. Shut up.
God, I love that, and I'm willing to fully accept that.
And I love how they kick him out because he says bad things about Elvis. And Sheriff Wydell cannot abide that.
It's so good.
Ah.
That reminds me, there's a scene in Thousand Corpses
Oh yeah.
where Spaulding has a John Wayne tattoo, and he
has a
refers to
John
him as
Wayne
the
tattoo.
Duke. And
What other Duke would you
Rainn
know
Wilson
about?
literally is like, "Oh, you mean John Wayne?" And he's like, "Well, damn son, what other Duke is there?" And in this, he calls Elvis Aaron Presley
He calls
the
him
king.
the king. Yeah.
And I just think it's funny that those are like two accidentally connected scenes in my mind.
I don't think it's accidental.
It's just, well, when we get into the spoilers, I would agree.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
But this is devastating news I must share, by the way. You may have noticed I didn't share a Twitter Brandon, and I didn't
have
talk about it
noticed that.
either.
Yeah.
I don't have a Twitter Brandon here either. RIP Twitter Brandon, he nuked his goddamn Twitter account, and now I'm stuck with just his Letterboxd reviews,
Very
which is
sad.
so much harder because I know he's seen these movies because I've
Right.
looked up his Rob Zombie takes before. And what's so funny is I have thought in the past, damn, Twitter's gonna go like ass up soon. I'm gonna have to make sure
Haven't
that
we
I
all been thinking that for a long time at this point?
frankly. And I'm like, I'm gonna have to lift some of his like takes about a couple of movies that we might cover. Firstly, never would have touched this. I never would have thought that we would cover this.
I
Secondly,
did not expect us to ever hit this now.
he didn't just abandon Twitter, he deleted his Twitter, which is so sad. But he has not logged this movie on Letterboxd, so I got nothing. Luckily, though, I have, and I give it a solid 9 out of 10. I think the only reason I'm not giving it a 10 is because I don't know if I want to.
Sure.
It's a hard movie to stand by a 10, even though I think it deserves it.
I feel like most criticisms that people would have for this movie, I would find perfectly valid.
Well, the issue is a lot of the
I
criticisms...
don't know that I would want to defend this movie in an argument.
That's the problem.
You
A lot of
know?
the criticisms people do level at this movie are moral criticisms.
right,
And
which
that's
is
the-
perfectly fair.
It's perfectly fair,
A lot
but
of
it's
gross
also
shit in
really
here.
derivative. Or not derivative. It's no, not derivative. It's what's the word I'm looking for?
It's shit.
Not demeaning, not derivative.
It's like oversimplifying it. It's kind of
It's very much oversimplifying. It's a very surface level read of the movie. Oh my god,
shit, I
how
know
can
the
you...
word that you're talking about.
Yeah.
I'm really annoyed that neither of us can think of it.
Let me look at let me check back in my notes real quick at Brandon's Event Horizon thing, because I think he used the fucking word I was trying to think of. No, valid but easy. Damn. Okay. I don't know. I can't think of the word I'm after.
Diminishing?
Diminish.
That's not quite it.
No.
It's close though.
But regardless of what word I
Hope you guys
want
are
to
enjoying
say,
listening to both of us not remembering a word.
I really think that it does the movie a disservice to only talk about it in a moral sense. It's
Yeah.
like, this is not
It's a horror
like,
movie.
it's a horror movie.
supposed
It's
to
grody. It's
bother you.
nasty. And Rob, his characters are so good. And the reason they're good is he is giving you the gift of a bad guy. The
Yeah.
man has gifted unto you the worst people you do not have to root for, so that you don't have to be sad when they go.
Mm-hmm.
31, the exact same thing. Not a single character in that movie is a guy I like. None of them.
God, no.
Not a single fucking person. I didn't like a single person outside of like Spalding and Otis in like fucking House of a Thousand Corpses.
Yeah, the characters are not
4
meant to be
people
likable because
that Rob rightly called out as, I don't give a shit about this guy.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he's right. I don't give a shit about him.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit about
Rob
any of
knows
them.
the kind of movie that he's making. It took so many Friday the 13th sequels for the makers of the Friday the 13th movies to figure this out. It took Rennie Harlan for Nightmare on Elm Street to figure this out. But when people watch certain kinds of horror movies, they are rooting for the fucking villains.
Yeah.
So he gives you a movie where you get a lot more of the villains than you get of the victims, because that's what you're here for.
And he's just like, yeah, this is what you want, huh? You want more of the villains. And you sit there and you realize, shit,
Maybe I didn't
no,
want
I didn't
this.
want that. I actually, no, Mr. Zombie, I did not want to see more of the Fireflies being the Fireflies. I guess I was wrong. And then, by some goddamn miracle, by the end of this movie, you are rooting for these guys like nothing else, because it's like, oh my god, the last bastion of outlaw America, let's go.
Yeah.
You are
The Southern
rooting.
Rock soundtrack gets you on their side.
Freebird kicks in
Freebird
while
hits.
they're running away from where they almost got murdered. And you're like, oh my god,
They're making it.
they're gonna do it. My little boys are thriving and surviving. Otis was crucified, but now he's not. He's like risen again, like a Charles Manson, but even worse.
Otis does get a little bit crucified.
He gets it's kind of fun, right?
like he's
after he-
not in the position. He's like on a chair, but both his hands get nailed.
Yeah, by 9
It's a
inch
very
nails.
obvious reference.
Yeah, it's a blatant reference. And Freebird kicks in and they play almost the entire song.
Yeah, all the way through the first section of the solo.
Yeah,
before
and then
cuts
it
off.
ends.
And then the credits.
There's
roll.
gunfire, there's crashing, and it's over.
Yeah.
And then we get another fucking Southern Rock song.
Yeah.
Over this gorgeous sweeping countryside video. I
Mhm.
watched the entire thing.
Yeah.
How the fuck does this movie come from
Right?
House of a fucking Thousand Corpses? There's not a single shot of negative film in this movie. There's not a
which
single
is very
vignette
nice.
cutaway.
There are cutaways, but they are not like the cutaways that
No,
we
they're cutaways
had.
that are like a normal movie that add to the story.
Kind of.
You
well,
know?
and it's in like the Freebird scene. We're getting scenes of them just like kind of
Just kind
hanging
of
around
fucking
and
around.
having a good time.
It's like,
yeah.
oh,
And it's kind of like, well,
these
this is the stuff that
evil
they're thinking
murderers
of
are
in there.
normal people too.
Yeah. Well, so much of the latter part of this movie is just them having a bunch of like regular people moments to humanize them a bunch. And that's one of the things that I really like about this
Mm-hmm.
is Rob takes the movie that gives you too much of your killers and he takes that to its fullest extent. He says, okay, yeah, we're going to give you too much of what they're doing here. I'm going to give you absolutely everything that Otis does with his victims. I'm going to give you every way that Baby toys around with the people that she's left alone with. I'm going to give you all of how fucked up Captain Spaulding is as well. And I'm going to give you the quiet little moments where they don't have a chance to be fucked up and they are left just being regular people.
Tutti fucking fruity.
Tutti fucking fruity.
God. And when the cut from him saying,
None of this is going to make any sense to anyone who hasn't seen the movie, but
Yeah,
like we'll get
but
to it.
They're begging the man for ice cream, and he's like, "I have calculated." And he's like, "It'll take 2 seconds. It won't kill you."
I love the
Actually,
way
I've
he says
calculated. It'll
this.
take exactly 2 fucking seconds to kill me. And then he's like, "There will be no ice cream." immediately cuts to Baby and Spalding eating ice cream and Otis looking fucking livid.
And Funk 49 is playing on the radio, which only makes it more absurd.
And you got these two just like licking their ice cream cones and like, damn, Tutti Frutti is so good.
I love the line that Baby has there where she's like, I don't know why you have to be such a grouch. This is actually really good. And she offers him some of her ice cream, and he doesn't want it because he's being angry right now.
He's so funny.
Otis
No
is just
talk me,
driving the
I
car like,
angy.
no talk, I angy. And Baby tries to give him some ice cream. She puts it up in his face, and he goes to shove it out of his face, and she gets some ice cream on his nose.
And
they
you
laugh
see
at
him almost crack. He's like,
from the look on Bill Moseley's face, I think honestly, Otis was like just half a step away from crashing the car on purpose in that moment.
But Bill Moseley is half a step away from laughing his ass off. I guarantee that was the best take they got, which is why they had to keep.
Honestly, I wonder, like, you know, this is a thing that we're always wondering about with a lot of movies, right? Let's see, this is 2005, so like I don't know necessarily, but like I wonder about how heavily scripted a lot of those scenes were. Like how much of that was just like Sid Haig and Sherry Moon Zombie fucking around, trying to be annoying to Bill Moseley.
So there's a 2.5 hour documentary, 30 Days in Hell, the making of The Devil's Rejects.
Oh my God, I need to watch that.
People have said it's insane that it was just a special feature released on the DVD because it is really good. I really wanted to watch it for this, but I watched both of these movies last night after.
We decided very last minute about doing Devil's Rejects as part of this podcast. Oh, sorry to be spoiling the illusion. Noah didn't actually spring this on me just now.
Yeah,
we had both already been planning to watch both movies for the House of a Thousand Corpses episode and just decided to make this about both of them.
Yeah, because it just kind of made more sense.
It makes for better discussion of both movies, I think, honestly.
It does. And because House of a Thousand Corpses is fine on its own, but as the Firefly duology, which I will continue to think of it as until I actually watch Three from Hell, that I've heard
so close to watching Three from Hell for this because it's streaming free with ads on Pluto right now.
And
but
on
then
Tubi,
I went to watch it. No, the others are on Tubi.
Oh, okay.
And also Pluto. But
also, I'm kicking myself. I own all of these on Blu-ray, and I didn't watch them on Blu-ray.
Oh shit, we got to watch those.
Yeah.
I would love to watch a Blu-ray quality Devil's Rejects. Holy shit.
Me too.
Oh my God. Because I bet House of a Thousand Corpses still looks like shit.
Yeah.
Because that's how it's supposed to look.
Exactly. And Devil's Rejects also has its shit moments, but the lighting will show in a nicer way.
I want to see it, you know?
Yeah.
I got to watch Three from Hell. But like when I went to watch it on Pluto, Pluto gave it to me in Spanish with Spanish subtitles, and I am up to a 56-day streak on Duolingo, but I am not there yet.
That is actually really fucking
funny. And I couldn't figure out how to fix it. I Googled Pluto's only playing in Spanish, and the only information I found is Pluto doesn't let you change languages. No shit, I couldn't manage to change it back to English.
That is so
I don't know
funny.
what the problem was here.
Oh my God.
I'm sure it's something obvious that like I'm doing wrong somehow, but I don't know how.
Do you have an account?
No.
That's so weird.
Yeah, it's really strange. Anyways, though.
You didn't give me a rating.
Oh, I haven't yet. I think I'm giving it an 8.5 because I think for as much as I like it, there is a certain amount of issue that I have with it. And it's, once again, not moral objections. It's just there's a handful of short scenes that I think could have gotten cut. And I think they should have because I think the movie drags a little bit. I think it runs just a little bit too long. Not that I dislike it in those scenes or anything, not that I dislike it at the end, but by the time we get there, I'm tired, you know?
It does feel every second of its 140, 150,
150, I think.
Yeah, it's an hour 50. You feel it as
probably
the movie
10 of
goes
that's
on.
credits, but like
a solid 6 at least.
The movie just, by the time it hits the end, you're ready for it to be over.
Between the opening and closing, it's at least 10 minutes of credits.
Gotta be.
Because you play the entirety of Midnight Rider.
You get the entirety of Midnight Rider.
Honestly, you get the entirety of a lot of songs in this.
You kind of do. This is one of those movies that's so full of needle drop moments that it makes you think that it feels Yeah, you know how a lot of movies, lots of times, if they've got too many needle drops, it feels a little amateurish because it's
Yeah.
kind of like, oh, basic, like, early production, like film student. Oh, you're coming up with scenes because of the songs that are on your playlist, and you want to make
Yeah,
sure that they're
some
all
movies
playing at the
feel like an
special moments for
iPod
your little
shuffle.
guys. And
Yeah.
yeah,
This doesn't feel like that.
this feels a little bit like that.
There's moments it feels like that, but I love the
It's
music
very
in
thematic,
this
though.
because it makes the world feel real.
Yes.
Because these are people listening to real, not
These are
okay.
people that seem familiar listening to music that I know.
Yeah, and even
listening
the
to
songs that
music
I don't
that-
know, I'm like, this is a real song, and it is real.
Well,
And
even the
not, like,
songs
'cause
that I
a lot
don't
of
know-
pop songs made for movies, heavy
Oh, sure.
production, a lot of synth, they don't feel real.
Nah.
And House of a Thousand Corpses has a really, really good soundtrack.
Absolutely, it
And
does,
it's
actually.
but it's all Rob Zombie
what it is.
songs.
Mhm.
Not really, but like
It's a lot of Rob
It's-
Zombie songs though, because
and
it's
it's very-
Pussy Liquor and it's House of a Thousand Corpses and
Yeah.
it's that other one that I always forget what it's called.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it's all Brick House is in there. His cover
Oh,
of
you
Brick
get Brick House in the end credits. Yeah,
Yeah,
which it's a
and-
very fun cover of Brick House. It's got Lionel Richie on it even.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah.
But all that stuff comes together and it is a very edgy soundtrack. Yeah, I guess that would be the soundtrack of House of a Thousand Corpses. The soundtrack stands at odds with the actions on screen in a really fun way.
In a way that doesn't feel like it's just trying to do the Reservoir Dogs thing,
Yes.
which is always the problem with that kind of thing, right?
Now, I didn't write down all the content warnings for this one.
Oh god.
There's a very, I think, funny use of the F slur.
I think it's really funny.
It's really funny.
I think it's really funny, yeah.
You have a very racist moment from Baby where she's just doing like this little song that's racist.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And
it's a scene of just her being annoying on purpose
Yeah.
because that's how she and Otis spend about half of this movie.
yep. And Otis looks over at their captured victim because there's a couple of guys in the room. He looks over at one of them. He's like, "You staring at my sister?
You haven't
You having impure thoughts
Yeah,
about
he
my
says
sister?"
something about him having impure thoughts of some sort. Yeah.
Mhm. And he's like, "No,
No.
sir."
And he says, "Well, why not?"
Why not? And the guy's just like, and that leads one of the funniest moments of the movie immediately leads to the most upsetting moment in the movie.
Yeah, because you go from there directly into a pretty graphic scene of sexual assault.
no
No good at all.
No, God, it's really funny.
Yeah, we get another F slur
Mm-hmm.
leveled by the same character at the same character again in like one of the following scenes
Yeah,
as
it's
well.
Yeah, Otis has no patience for this man.
He's done with him. He doesn't like him.
Once again, we have the violence is not graphic in the same way as House of a Thousand Corpses.
Not in this. It's a different
It
kind of
is-
violence. There's not so much focus on the mutilation and stuff. It's more just
No.
garden variety murder. for
But
the
it's
most
really,
part.
and I'm not
It's
going to say it's
enacted in
less
upsetting
fun
ways.
to watch.
It's enacted
I'm-
in some very upsetting ways.
Yeah. I don't know
There's
why I was
fun
saying
violence,
because
like,
it wasn't
like you
fun to
see-
watch in House of a Thousand Corpses
Sure.
either. It is not fun to watch in this, and that's part of the experience. Like,
Right. It's supposed to. You're supposed to look at it and be like, "Oh shit, this is
yeah,
pretty fucked up."
Rob has gifted us 3 abhorrent human beings.
Yeah.
And then a 4th one makes a late stage entry, and they're just not
I
like
mean, he's present in the movie before.
he is,
that,
but he
like, just
becomes an
little
abhorrent
bits.
character
Yeah.
late stage.
Well, that's yeah.
And like these guys are all here for us to gawk at like a carnival exhibit.
Yeah.
And so
And
when
to
it's
just
not
watch them go through their day.
yeah, and it's not fun to watch, but it's also like it's kind of like a train wreck at some points, like it's just like I cannot
Like,
stop
oh my
watching what
God.
Otis is about to do next.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah. So that's honestly, I think
That's
that's
kind of
all there
it,
is
though.
to warn for
Because
in this.
if
It's got some.
it's hellbillies
It's
shit again.
Kinda, yeah.
It's offensive, it's like really really lowbrow moments.
It's swinging really hard for everything that it's doing, and what it's doing is
And-
things that are upsetting.
From what I've gleaned from the info I have from the documentary, like this was a miserable filming experience for a lot of people. It was
Oh, yeah?
really hard,
Oh.
but everyone was really committed to it, and
This is what I hear about Rob Zombie's projects all the
They're
time.
it's a really rough month,
Is that
and
it's tough to do, but he cares so much that everyone else just matches his energy.
and here's the thing. I get it. I would disappear for 30 days to pull these 16-hour shoot days to make this movie.
Honestly, the way that
you
I used
kidding
to
me?
spend my summers, when I look at the idea, the prospect of something like that, I'm like, I'm sure I could do pretty much anything for a month.
Yeah, it's
You
just
know,
like
I could sleep outside for a month. I've
Right?
done it, like for a week at a time at least.
Yeah, it's like I look at this and I'm like, okay, yeah, this is my job, so I don't have to worry about juggling this with work.
Okay.
Wow, yeah, I'm sold.
Yeah, I'll go live in a motel in the desert with Rob Zombie for a month so that
Right?
we can make a fucked up movie. I'll do it.
I could
Like,
I can see it.
yeah.
And everyone had a bad time, but they all cared enough about the project that they had like they made this.
Yeah.
And it's crazy.
It's yeah, I really want to watch that documentary about the making of it now. God.
So yeah, it's 30 Days in Hell.
Yeah.
I'm gonna see if it's a special feature on my Blu-ray.
Are we gonna attempt a scary rating on either of these movies? Without Emma here, I know that we don't.
Without Emma here, it's gonna be difficult, right? And I'm gonna say that this one is definitely scarier than House of a Thousand Corpses.
Certainly, it's doing everything in a very different way.
Yeah, objectively and subjectively, it is scarier.
Mm-hmm.
I would say House of a Thousand Corpses because of its disturbing nature, and for me, literally because of the tension moment where Otis shoots the deputy. I would put that, if I'm judging Emma numbers, probably going to be like a 2 or a 3.
Yeah, that's about what I would expect Emma to give that. Yeah.
This one, and I think that this one is going to win out because of the graphic assault scene. This one's probably
Yeah.
going to clock in at like an 8.
I think Emma would probably give that really high uncomfy numbers more so
Yeah.
than anything else.
Yeah, because once again, it's not a movie with like
The movie's
scary
not-
things on screen.
The movie's never building tension on things that you don't know about.
No, and
It's
that's
always
the
very
worst
clear
part.
about
It's-
everything that's happening, and you see
Yeah.
it coming, and you watch
and
it
that's the bad
happen.
thing is there's a scene later. And we'll get into it in
something
like
that
2
Rob
seconds
does
with
really
the
well,
spoiler.
isn't it? Is he does really well with just telling you what's going to happen and making you see it and making
Yeah.
that feel really bad.
Captain Spaulding enters the scene as a girl escapes baby and is finally getting away. She runs into him, like physically runs into him, grabs him and says, "Oh my God, please help me. I'm being chased." And he's like, and he just like basically goes, "Ha ha," headbutts her to knock her out.
Yeah.
And it's such a heartbreaking moment. You
It
know
is.
she thought she was safe.
And you've
And
seen
then-
everything that she's been through up to that point, which is
Yeah.
horrifying. Oh my God. And it's like you want her to get away. You want her to be okay. And then
you want and
the
she's
movie
not.
dangles that in front of you for a second.
She does live. No, she doesn't.
No,
live.
she doesn't.
Never
She dies,
mind.
yeah.
She dies real hard. She dies in a
Yeah.
big way.
She dies bad, yeah.
But let me
We've gotta get
let's
into
go
a-
into
a
the
synopsis
spoiler
here, yeah.
because once Baby and Otis get away, they know they gotta call Spaulding because you find him in their little murder book in the basement posing with a corpse, and he's
Right,
just
yeah.
like, "Look
He
at
is
this
part of
guy."
it, yeah.
And
So Spaulding, though, his first scene in the movie
God, it's so good.
is this lengthy sex scene.
You see his balls.
Okay, I was gonna ask you about
I
this.
think that actually
is
is
that Sid Haig's actual balls?
I'm wondering if that's an honest to God
Ladies-
penetrative sex scene.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've got balls.
We've got balls.
We've got not fully visible dong, but we have got balls. And also, I was also wondering if this was actually like unsimulated because the actress, the girl who's on top of him in that scene, is an actual like former porn actress. So fully plausible. I don't know.
We gotta watch the documentary.
Do you want to see Sid Haig's balls? Probably. They're in this movie.
Yeah.
But then
He calls her
she-
a whore.
he makes a joke. He
Yeah.
says, "Oh man,
gonna-
that was so great for you. You're gonna have to pay me next time."
yeah.
And she's like, "Are you calling me a whore?" And he says, "I call him like I see him." And she pulls out a gun and points it at him and says, "Laugh, clown." And then she shoots him in the head, and he wakes up. It was a dream. Ah.
It's oh man.
And he's in bed next to a different woman.
a different woman.
And she's like, "Oh man, you have a bad dream," because he woke up screaming. And he goes, 50-50.
And then she's like, "Cool, want a bone?" And he's like,
No.
"God damn it, I gotta piss." And she's like, most guys would be happy to have someone as horny as me.
And
you
he's
know?
like, no, you're too horny for me. And she smacks his ass. And then he
gets mad about
receives a
that.
phone call where Otis and
Hey,
Baby
you're
tell
ignoring
him,
the part where he was on primetime TV.
oh, right. He turns on the TV, sees the beginnings of the report about the
Yeah, because he was
the
watching
cops
his commercial.
busting the house. Right. Yeah, that's right. He had this We didn't
There's
talk
a-
about his commercial in the beginning of House of a Thousand Corpses either.
No,
which is
it's really
so
good.
comedically terrible.
It's very local commercial, but
Yeah.
like the scariest local commercial you've ever seen. Because there's still Sid Haig and his like makeup and
It's-
his black teeth.
Yeah. And it's in black and white to make it feel even more off.
God, I love the design of Captain Spaulding is so good. I don't know who came
It's
up with
really
that,
well done.
but Spaulding as a character in full clown face and outfit is really good.
Real good.
And then
anyways, though.
Spaulding as his makeup wears off because he's having a
He
bad
just
time.
keeps getting scarier.
Also, he puts his makeup on in his house because he's about to go to work. So he's like sitting
Yeah.
here watching TV in clown face.
Yeah,
and that's
so
really funny.
yeah, so he sees the beginnings of his commercial playing, and then it gets interrupted by a news broadcast, and he's so angry because he paid good money for that time slot. And then he receives a phone call from Otis and Baby saying how the family got busted by the cops and they're on the run, and they tell him where they're hiding out. And he tells them a hotel to meet him at, and they start heading there, and he starts driving. When they arrive at the motel, he's not there. And they're like, shit, what do we do? We gotta be able to hide. So Baby's like, don't worry, I'll get us a room. And Otis is like, well, you better hurry. And she's like, fuck you.
Mhm.
And
A
then
classic, a
we get
classic.
introduced to some victim characters. They are a country band called Banjo and Sullivan,
Banjo and Sullivan
led by a man named Roy Sullivan, who played with Johnny Cash once, shook his hand.
shook his hand.
Yeah.
I was talking to Johnny Cash. I played with Johnny Cash once.
He mentions this like 3 times.
He mentions it to Otis.
He mentions it to Otis.
and Otis is so unimpressed.
Okay, we haven't gotten to the point where he meets Otis yet, though. Okay,
Yeah,
so
okay.
the Banjo and Sullivan crew are all just getting out of their van and loading into their couple of different motel rooms while they're having a conversation about the events of the previous night, which is Roy's wife was attempting to ride a mechanical bull whilst wearing a tube top.
Yep.
And yeah, do I even have to tell you what happened after that?
They do.
They do. They tell us what happened after that. We
My
get the
titties weren't
details.
flopping. They were going in 2 different directions.
I love the way that they tell this story to each other because they were all there for it.
And
but
it
they just
feels
can't
like a
stop.
story that they were all there for because they're not giving us every detail.
Yeah, it feels like the way that a group of people just dunk on their friend when she did something stupid last night while she was drunk.
Literally, because the story opens up with her saying,
I know that I don't need to tell you this, but riding a mechanical bull is not as easy as it
No,
looks.
because it opens with her saying, it's really not that funny.
That's right. Yeah, because they're all talking about how funny it is. I imagine
Like,
that
that's
they've
like
been
the first line of the group.
This
It's
is
not
like
that funny.
what, like early afternoon when this is happening?
Yeah.
And I imagine that they've probably been on the road the whole day up until this point, and this is all they've been talking about.
Easily.
And she is fucking done with it. And she's saying that it's not that funny, and then Roy, who is her husband, Roy says, well, I know that I don't need to tell you this, but riding a mechanical bull is not as easy as it looks. Apparently, she went into it thinking that it wasn't going to be difficult. And the one guy who appears to just be a roadie that nobody likes.
He is just the roadie, yeah.
And nobody in the group likes him.
Nope.
He says, well, actually, you had a pretty great ride until tragedy struck.
And no one is amused by him. But when
they
they
laugh
start...
at all. They laugh at every joke except the ones that he says.
It's really good.
And then we get just piece by piece descriptions of how this happened. And then eventually they send Roy to go get some ice from the machine. And while he's over there, Baby shows up and she flirts with him perhaps the most overtly that anyone has ever flirted with anyone. And he acts very into it. And then she says, what do you say you take me back to your room to play with me? And he says, well, my wife's in that room. And she says, oh, so is my brother going to have to... What is it she says? Is my brother going to have to shoot you in the head, basically?
Yeah. She's like,
And he goes, huh? And then Otis is behind him with a gun.
It's really good. And then
I get the impression that the idea was just for her to get him to take her back to the room quietly, and Otis got impatient and snuck up behind him, is what happened.
Yeah, probably.
Like, I don't think the plan was the distraction and then the threat. I think the plan was just the distraction and then Otis shows up.
As soon as he's like, well, my wife's in that room. So it also very
Then plan
funny.
B hits.
Roy talks with such a like emotionless monotone in a lot of this movie. And that, well, I say that, but the roadie actually talks in an emotionless monotone.
Yeah, because every line that the roadie says is kind of just sort of like this. I was doing a little research about that thing that I was telling you about that I might be interested in doing, which is being a rodeo clown. And Roy tells him about how he would never cut it as a rodeo clown.
Yeah, like that horn will be up your ass before you even know it.
Yeah, and the guy's like, you can never be supportive of anything I want to do.
So when I say that Roy is an emotionless monotone, it's not totally
Roy
true.
Seems
but he
very uninvested in a lot of things.
Yeah, it seems like
he's into himself.
He doesn't want to be there.
He's into himself.
He's just waiting for their next gig.
Yeah. He likes touring because he likes playing the shows, and like anyone who tours, everything else about it is just the worst.
Yep.
I've heard so many professional musicians talk about this, and it was not my experience touring, but I think that's just because I have so little experience touring.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think if we would have done...
You had a good one.
We had a good one and we had a short one. Is the big thing. I think if we would have gone for longer, we would have had time to have a bad time. Yeah, if we would have toured for more than a couple weeks at a time, it would have been a different story, I'm certain. But my touring experience is not relevant to this movie whatsoever, because these guys were staying in a motel. They weren't sleeping in a Walmart parking lot or a side room at a very kind church, which is what my band was doing. So... in any case, then Otis and Baby take Roy back to the motel room where Roy's wife has been lying on the bed watching a TV report about satanic cults and really wanting to change it, but not wanting to get up. And the other guy, I didn't ever catch his name.
That's Banjo.
That must be Banjo.
It is Banjo.
He's not a Sullivan. So
he's definitely not Sullivan.
Banjo is there, and his wife is in the shower. And we get some rather gratuitous girl in shower shots.
Adam. His name is Adam.
His name's
Banjo.
Adam. I'm just going to keep calling him Banjo,
Me too.
honestly. Banjo is here without Kazooie. Sorry, N64.
No Kazooies in sight.
And no references to the number 13, so far as I can remember at this time.
There's at least 13 corpses in that house.
There's at least 13 corpses in that house. Okay, so Baby and Otis arrive at the room with Roy. They send Roy in first, of course, and then Otis, loud and proud with his gun out, tells everyone that he's in charge here and everyone's going to listen, and they all freak out, of course, because a man's pointing a gun at them. And he's like, is this everyone? And they say yes, and Banjo says, my wife is in the shower, and Otis opens up that bathroom door, throws open the curtain, grabs her by the hair, drags her out of the shower, holds her in front of everyone and says, is this everyone?
And then Roy says, yes,
Roy
this
says
is everyone.
Confidently, yes, this
and
is
then,
everyone.
What do we hear? Hey, Roy, I got you that ice you asked me for.
No, he wasn't getting the ice. It was something else.
No,
it was jerky. It was jerky.
Oh, the jerky, because
he says the brand name of the jerky in like a really weird way and everything. And Otis is like, "Oh, is that so?" And he throws. I feel bad for not knowing her name. Banjo's wife,
Wendy,
Mrs. Wendy. Okay,
Wendy Banjo. That's
right. Okay, so he throws. It actually lists their surname as being Banjo.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yep.
I was just doing that as a joke. All right, so. He throws Wendy onto the bed and they cover her with some blankets and she ends up wearing somebody's like cast off flannel. And they open the door and the roadie guy comes in. Baby opens the door and he's like, oh, I must have the wrong room. And she's like, nah, you got the right room. And he's like, Roy's in here? And she's like, yeah, Roy's in here. And she lures him in. Otis shoots him in the head immediately.
Yeah. Oh my God. He's just like, wait, what's going on? And then he shoots him and says to Roy, "See, now I know I can't trust you because you lied to me." And Roy had been like, "Well, I've kind of forgot he existed. He's just our roadie."
Nobody likes. They hate him so much.
And then he fucking gets shot right in front of him.
yeah.
And that's where we hit the really emotionally roller coaster scene of Baby doing an annoying little racist song.
Well, we gotta cut over to Captain Spaulding.
Oh, that's right. We
before
cut to
this happens,
Spaulding
and we
and-
get a cut
Ooh,
over
yeah.
also to
The
Ken
sheriff I haven't
Faree's
mentioned.
character.
Oh,
we haven't talked
I
about
love
the
Ken
sheriff
Faree.
at all. We haven't talked about Ken Faree's character. I love Ken Faree, man.
Is it Faree or Foray?
I've heard it said Faree.
I've heard Foray.
Oh, interesting. Foray is a different word, but in reference to this guy's name, I have only ever heard it said
It's an
Ken
EE,
Faree.
So let's say Ken Faree. Anyway, he's a pimp.
Worth mentioning, Ken Faree, Sid Haig, and a number of other actors who are consistently in Rob Zombie movies are people who were actually in like the 70s exploitation films that he's always aping in all of his shit.
Yeah.
And
He's-
that's like
he's
part of
got,
the thing
like,
that really nails the
legit
feel.
people.
Yeah, he always gets the people who have that experience.
Yeah, well, actually, no, there's this hilarious Ken Faree title in here. Let me try and find it real quick.
Oh. Because he was in what's it? The Beyond, that Lovecraft adaptation that I was gabbing a ghoul about a while back.
Mm-hmm.
He was a main character in that, and he was really good at
Here
it.
we go. Black Santa's Revenge.
That's right.
2007, by the way.
Oh shit! I need to watch this shit.
It's a 21-minute
Is that all?
movie. Few enough ratings that it doesn't have an average.
No average.
Yeah.
Oh my
161
God.
people have seen this movie, according to Letterboxd.
I'm about to be number 162. I have a feeling this is going to be a new Christmas tradition of
I
mine.
need y'all to pop onto Letterboxd so that you can see the poster for Ken Faree, Black Santa's Revenge.
I would not have believed this was the real poster.
No. In a city where crime runs rampant and despair rules with the streets, one man delivers hope with a vengeance. A mini epic by David Walker. And it's Ken Faree dressed as Santa with a fucking magnum pointed at the fucking at you.
And then another picture of Ken Faree dressed as Santa holding a different gun.
Yeah. Big fucking gun.
God, this is good.
Anyway, yeah, the classic exploitation guys.
Yeah. Anyways, so Ken Faree's character is named Charlie Altamont, and he is a pimp. He's running a brothel that he says is having some money problems because their clientele are all just too damn cheap. And he wants to find a way to try and, rope them in, really hustle that pussy, he says. And the
girl says,
his, like,
I've been
lead-
wanting to
yeah.
do that sci-fi shit.
She says she wants
You know,
to
it's
do
like
a Star Wars
Wars.
themed thing. To which Charlie says, "Oh no, because then everyone's gonna want you to act like robots, and I don't want a bunch of horny robots running around here." To which his janitor then, or I assume
'Cause-
Cleavon is just the janitor because
That's
that's all
what I
he's
thought.
shown doing. Really, it seems like he's Charlie's like assistant, but all we really see him doing is cleaning.
Yeah.
And he says they call him droids actually. And Charlie's just like,
"Thank you,
yeah,
Clark."
I know. I just,
Yeah, no, he doesn't care.
He doesn't
because she's like, all those nerds want to fuck Princess Leia, and he's up there, me too. She's like,
yeah,
thank you.
I love that. He's immediately just like, oh, I'd fuck her. And she goes, thank you.
So there's that aside where we get introduced
Yeah,
to
and
Ken
then-
Faree's character.
And it's at that point that Charlie then receives a phone call from Captain Spaulding, who on the other end of the phone says, it's me, Cutter.
Yeah,
And it's at this point we start figuring out that all these people have a bunch of different names, actually.
yeah,
And it's pretty much clear to us that we never hear any of their real names, if they have one at this point.
yeah.
Because Otis ends up calling him Cutter later on in the movie as well. Like,
Yes, he does not like him.
And he said, but anyways, Cutter says, some shit's gone down and I'm headed your way to lay low for a little while. And Charlie says, no, you can't do that.
He's like, I would really rather you didn't. He's like, I didn't ask your permission. I'll
It's
be
happening
there.
anyway. And Charlie's like, no, hey, aw.
We get a really funny scene where Sid Haig is out here with his truck breaks down. So he goes
I
to
love
steal a
this
lady's.
scene.
He's like, I'm here to commandeer your car
I got
on
some top
official
secret clown business that
business."
supersedes any other plans that you might have had for this here vehicle.
And she's just
And
like,
this woman's just trying to load her son into the car so she can drive him to school or
yeah,
some
and she's
shit.
like, huh? And then he gets violent, and she tells her kid to get in the car and lock the door, and then he lays her out.
Yeah, he says,
Gets him-
never turn your back on a clown when he's trying to talk to you, and he puts her on the ground
Yeah.
violently,
And then-
gets into the car next to the kid, and I
What's the
love
matter,
this
kid?
shit.
Don't like clowns?
The kid shakes his head. No, he doesn't like clowns.
No, he
and
does
Spalding
not.
says, well, why? Don't we make you laugh? Aren't we funny? And the kid still just like can't answer because he's too damn scared.
Yeah.
And Spalding says, you'd better have an answer for why you hate clowns, because I'm going to come back here and check on you and your mama. And if you ain't got an answer to why you don't like clowns, I'm going to kill your whole family. The kid crying, and Spalding like just about pushes him out of the car,
Yeah, he's like, "Get the
drives
hell out."
off. I love this scene.
It's really good. But yeah, you know,
Meanwhile, we've also been getting scenes in between all of
The
this here
sheriff.
and there of the sheriff, because Mother Firefly tried to kill herself at the scene, but the gun she picked up was empty.
Yep.
So she got taken by the cops. She's been locked up. And there's a couple different scenes where the sheriff tries to get information from her, and she is not forthcoming with anything useful. But she loves to taunt him with the fact that she was the one who killed his brother.
She loves to do that.
And also to be trying to seduce him at the same time.
Yep.
That's her other favorite thing.
And what we end up seeing from the sheriff over the course of the movie is Wydell 2 is not handling anything well.
God, no.
He actually has a nightmare
Yeah.
where he goes down to the Firefly house basement and he thinks he finds Captain Spaulding, but no, it's Wydell Prime. It's a fucking nightmare. And he's just like,
You'd better avenge
like,
me or
"I've
else
been
my
try-"
soul will never know peace.
he's just like, I'm trying to walk the line. And he's like, you can't walk the line. I'm here. And he's like, you don't belong here, brother. And he's like, yeah, I live here now. My soul will never know peace until you avenge me.
Yeah.
And
This hits kind of later in the movie, though.
yeah, and because of this, I'm just going to do his plot line real
Oh,
quick.
sure.
to
Yeah,
get
just
him out
roll
of the
right
way,
through it.
because he is trying to go about this the right way.
Sort of.
Kind of. Mostly the right way.
He gets
Enough of
worse
the-
as it goes along. It's clear
Yep.
that he's already like
He
a
was
little
not,
bit beyond regular
yeah,
cop
he was
levels
not
even.
handling things well at the beginning of the movie.
Certainly not.
It
He's
does
very
only
much
get
on a
worse.
revenge mission more than a justice mission.
100%. And what ends up happening is his little nightmare tips him over the edge. He murders Mama Firefly.
He does. He stabs
In a
her
really
to death
horny way, actually.
in jail. Yeah, yes, absolutely. It's a very Firefly way, wouldn't you say?
It was a very Firefly
it's
way,
kind
I
of
would say.
he who hunts monsters must take care not to become a monster kind of thing.
It is, in
You know,
fact,
sort of,
exactly like that.
Sort of Nietzsche-esque.
This is so Nietzsche-esque. Like the bug guy. It's like, clack, 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 clack. Oh
Hmm?
no, I woke up, I'm a big cockroach. Nietzsche.
Yeah, that's
You
what
know.
happened to Nietzsche.
Yeah.
That's why he stopped writing when he did, is he got turned into a giant cockroach and nobody knew what to do about it. Kafka wrote a book about it, I think.
Okay, side note, you know, Kafka thought of himself as horrifically ugly, and he's so pretty.
I remember seeing pictures of him and him being really pretty.
He's a
yeah.
very pretty man.
It's just that like he didn't do well socially and he hated his dad and he hated his job and his life just kind of sucked because of that from what I gather.
This is just like if I was a big ugly bug, which I am, by the way. Sure, Franz. Anyway,
Man, Kafka is such a guy to learn about.
he's such a guy.
He's just such a dude. Anyways,
So yeah, he murders Mama Firefly in a very Firefly way, and then he hooks up with these two like bounty hunters.
Danny Trejo and Diamond Dallas Page.
Yeah, pulling them in on this.
Did I see that Kane Hodder is in there? In
Kane
here somewhere?
Hodder is he is
Who is he?
He is an uncredited gas mask cop.
Oh.
Yeah, he's
okay.
just in the opening scene.
Well, that's a bummer.
right.
I would love to see this movie with a little more Kane in it, you know?
But also, I just think it's really important to note that Michael Redbone Alcott, the guy who I'm about to talk about.
Oh, the chicken guy.
Yeah, the guy who talks about fucking chickens.
He's only been in 4
He's-
movies?
3 movies.
Oh.
31.
And one of them is 31, so
Devil's
that's 2
Rejects,
Rob Zombie movies.
The Do-Over.
Huh.
But his picture is him from the Devil's Rejects.
Right.
Anyway, back to the movie. Yeah, so he hooks up with Trejo and Page to
The Unholy Two, they call
the
themselves.
Unholy Two to go track down the Firefly family.
Using this list of Groucho Marx characters that he got from a movie critic because they noticed a pattern that the names that the Firefly family used, Captain Spaulding, Otis B. Driftwood, etc.
P. Driftwood.
Oh, I saw it listed as a B. I thought it was a P, but then I saw it listed.
B.
Oh, it is a B. There it is.
Pretentious know-nothing.
So Captain Spaulding, Otis B. Driftwood, etc., Charlie Altamont as well, actually, are all names taken from Groucho Marx characters. So they bring in this movie critic
Who loves Groucho.
who loves Groucho to try and get whatever useful information they can get. But within moments of this guy being in the office, they get tired of him, and then he says something disparaging about Elvis, and they kick him out. But now they've got an expanded list of names to check with, so he gives a copy of this list to Danny Trejo, whose character is named Rondo.
Yep.
And we find this out when he looks at the list of names and says, "That's a funny ass name." And the sheriff says, "Look who's talking, Rondo." And Danny Trejo very abruptly stops laughing and looks at him with genuine hurt in his eyes.
Danny Trejo's great to be the guy that stops laughing and gets offended.
I love Danny
He's
Trejo.
really, like, it's a great role for him to play.
It's so perfect.
Because he just, every character he plays feels so sincere. The man is just having a good time.
I've never seen him play a character. He just shows up and he's Danny Trejo.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Like, whether it's Devil's Rejects or fucking Spy Kids, he's the same, and I love that.
Machete.
What is Rondo if not just Machete in a different context, you know?
More of a Machete context, actually.
Honestly, I haven't seen the Machete movies, but like...
I've seen one of them.
Oh, yeah? How
I
is
think it was like the third one.
Is it as completely stupid as I would expect?
It's just fun.
It's just
Yeah.
Danny Trejo doing killing and shit?
Yep.
Hell yeah. That's
You
all it
gotta
needs
check
to
it
be.
out. You
That is,
gotta.
I've got to get to it. Anyways, though.
I think he's in Planet Terror
Is he?
or Death Proof. I think he might be in one of those.
He's in one of those two? Okay.
He might be.
Neat.
I'll find out later.
So anyways, they get the list of names and they end up finding Charlie Altamont because he went by a different Marx Brothers name, and they found out where he was currently living under the name Charlie Altamont. And then they call the sheriff and they let him know, and the sheriff goes,
He's Machete
"Oh my
in
god,
Planet Terror.
he's Machete in Planet Terror. Oh,
Oh
my
my
god.
God.
All right. Hell yeah."
Anyway.
So this has gotten us a little bit ahead of ourselves, though,
It has.
because we've got to get back to where the three are,
Oh, that's right.
which means we got to go back
to the two.
back to the motel with Otis and Baby, where they are holding Banjo and Sullivan at gunpoint still. And at this point, Otis is just kind of sitting in a chair.
Actually, this is directly after the very upsetting assault scene.
No, we're about to go into that scene.
Oh, I already talked about the beginning of it.
We have already talked about it, but we haven't gotten chronologically to where it hits.
Yeah,
This is
okay.
where that hits.
Yeah.
Otis is just kind of sitting there, and Baby is doing this very annoying like song and dance routine that's basically what it comes down to is that she is like fondling her boobs and shaking her ass directly in front of Roy and his wife.
Mm-hmm.
And this is when Otis says the you thinking bad thoughts looking at my sister thing, and Roy's like, "No." And he's like, "Well, why not?" And Roy's like, "I'm a married man." And Otis is like, "Oh, round of applause for the married man over here." And then he makes his wife get up and take off her clothes and etc.
Yeah.
It's very bad. It's graphic. Nothing is shown explicitly, but it is, I mean, very little at least.
Very
is
little is shown
very
explicitly,
but it is very graphic. You know exactly what's happening the whole time, and he's doing it in a very traumatic, in front of a bunch of people context, and it's like, ugh, gross to watch, feels very bad. We were talking after we finished recording and thought that it would be good for me to come back and kind of emphasize that one of the things that we think is actually done well about this scene is that it's not shot in the kind of gross and like voyeuristic kind of way that a lot of rape scenes in a lot of movies unfortunately tend to get shot in. It's shot in just a very like, you're not supposed to enjoy this kind of way, and it's really unfortunate that that's worth pointing out, but the fact is that it is, and we think that that's something that Rob did pretty well here, actually. And once he's done doing that, Otis says, well, all right, now me and the boys are going to head off someplace to run some errands, and we're going to be back. And you two have fun with baby while I'm gone. And he takes Roy and Banjo and they leave. Now, Roy, not Roy, sorry, Banjo has been handling this very, very poorly the whole time.
He really has.
Lying
so
on
has
the bed.
Roy, frankly. Roy
to
has
be
just
fair,
shut
Roy has
off.
just shut down and he's just sort of sitting there motionless.
He
just
is
kinda,
fully in shock.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Banjo has been lying on the bed with his head in his wife's lap, praying the whole time. And she's clearly not taking it great either, but she's a lot more connected to reality than he is. At some point, while something upsetting was happening, Banjo like threw up on the floor, and Otis drives off with the guys in the car, and they get to somewhere and they park the car and get out, and he makes them walk in front of him while he points the gun at them. And then while they're walking, he starts taunting them about the fact that he essentially just raped this guy's wife in front of him, and he starts talking about maybe doing the same with Banjo's wife, Wendy. And he starts talking rather crassly about her body. And then he says this really funny line. This is a scene where Otis isn't like on. He's not in Manson mode here.
He
He's
doesn't
just
turn
kinda
on
very
until about
casual.
halfway through it.
Yeah, and he says, does she like when you throw up? Is that like part of your deal? Which is maybe the funniest thing he could possibly have said in this
Easily.
scene.
Oh, it's so funny.
Nobody laughs, obviously.
Yeah.
And
Not even
eventually-
Otis.
And eventually Roy is like, what are we doing out here? And Otis is like, well, I guess there's no harm in having you guys know. What we're going to do is we're heading off to dig up some guns that I buried out here a couple of years ago. And they're like, okay, then what? And Otis says, well, then there's no what. It's going to be the end of the line. And Roy takes too long to put this together and says, you're not going to kill us. And Otis is like, I don't see why I wouldn't do that. And Roy's like, well, but you said if we did what you told us to. And Otis is like, well, first of all, once again, this is a scene where it's really funny that he's saying this the way that he does. He's like, well, first of all, I didn't say anything. And the way that he's like gesturing with his hands and stuff is just so casual, as though he's
It's
not
so
holding them
funny.
at gunpoint.
He's like, I haven't told you anything.
And then he turns on a dime and starts screaming. And he's like, second, I'm the one calling the fucking shots here. You can, and the line that he says here is also really funny. He says, you can consider me Willy fucking Wonka. This is my chocolate factory.
So funny.
But then Banjo hits him in the head with a piece of wood.
Yeah. And he goes down.
And he goes down, and Roy gets the gun.
But he takes so long.
Roy is no good under pressure, and Otis is a great scrambler, as wrestlers say. And he manages not to take the gun out of his hand, but to get him to aim the gun at Banjo and shoot him in the neck.
Yep.
And then he pries the gun from his hand and goes to start taunting Banjo as he bleeds out. And this is
also-
where I love Otis.
Otis has, yeah. And this is where all the edgelords unfortunately love Otis, but like
Yeah,
unironically.
because they like the same things that I like, but it's in a different way. I like it in the better way.
Yeah.
I'm doing
'Cause
a
he-
different thing.
He does this whole speech about, why don't you pray to your God and see if he'll save you?
Yeah.
I want
well,
lightning
he-
to rain down
He
on
goes
my
to
head.
start taunting Banjo, and Banjo says, fuck you. And he's like, fuck you. They all say that. Well, guess what? That doesn't scare me, and it's not going to save you. It doesn't make you a fucking hero suddenly. You did everything that I told you right up until now, because you're a bitch. And then he goes into the, he says, like, you want to see something cool? You want to see badass? I'll fucking show you badass. And he goes over to taunt Roy, and he says, I want you to pray to your God. I want lightning to come down and strike me. And Roy starts hitting him with this really half-hearted prayer. He's not really putting much into this.
He's really not.
No.
Not to gatekeep being Christian.
Not to gatekeep prayer here, but Roy's not doing very good. He's not. He could be trying a lot
Church
harder.
people will tell you there's no wrong way to pray, but this is one
There
of them.
is a wrong way to pray, and this is it. Yeah, because he says, bless the bunnies and bless the little birds. And Otis rightfully mocks him for this.
Oh, he makes fun of him so hard.
And he's like, I don't feel anything. I love this scene.
It's really good.
And then
You
eventually
feel
Roy
Bill
says,
Mosley's energy in
yeah,
a crazy
the man is
way.
charismatic as hell.
And that's You can that's the thing about 31 is you have some really charismatic
Absolutely.
acting. That's the thing about this. The charisma
Uh-huh.
and energy that Rob gets his actors to radiate is
Yeah. He's going
insane.
crazy. So Roy gets to a particular line, and Otis suddenly goes, "Oh, oh, I feel it. I feel the spirit filling my body. I feel the love of the God Almighty." He says God 3 times, and I think that's an intentional thing.
Mhm.
Um, and then he like kind of stops and he's like got his arms still up and stuff. And he looks down at Roy and his hair's all in his face, as it's gotten all in his face because the wind's
Mhm.
blowing this whole time. And I love the way he does this particular moment. He pulls his hair out of his face and holding it there in a completely different tone than he's been talking this whole time goes, "I am the devil and I am here to do the devil's work." And then he
Yeah.
beats Roy to death with the piece of wood that Banjo hit him with. And then he goes and he stabs Banjo. Oh my God, I love this scene. Meanwhile, Baby has just kind of been sitting there playing with a knife to be a little scary to her hostages. And
Mhm.
Wendy asks if she can use the bathroom, and Baby doesn't respond. And this is a thing that she did a little bit in House of a Thousand Corpses as well, where she's
Mhm.
asked a question and just doesn't act as though she hears it.
Yeah, because
Then
either she's pouting or she's like, "This isn't important
or
to
she's
me."
like distracted somehow. Yeah, she decides it's just not important. And the other
Classic, it's
hostage.
ADHD rep, baby ADHD icon just is not paying attention to
Oh,
you.
totally. She's just not. So the other hostage repeats the question, can she use the bathroom? And Baby says, I heard you the first time. I'm thinking.
It's so good.
And it's like, the whole way through, Otis and Baby are very obviously both always just doing annoying things to bait people into attacking them, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty clear that this is all that they're doing. It's pretty clear this is all that Baby's doing in this scene. And she's like, I mean, what are you going to do for me? I'm letting you go and use the bathroom, but you can just sit on the bed and piss yourself for all I care. What am I getting here? And she says, I want you to do something for me. I want you to hit her in the face really hard. I want to hear it. And
There's a little
she,
tap.
and she does exactly what Baby told her not to do, a love tap. And Baby's like, no, harder, for real. And she hits her harder. And Baby's like, that's not good enough. Harder, for real. Like you mean it. And she hits her hard, and Baby's like, okay, now you give me a kiss and say, thank you, baby, I'm having a really good time, and then you can use the bathroom. So
Mhm.
she does. And as she's walking to the bathroom, Baby like throws an empty can at her, and she's like, don't try anything cute. The moment she's in that room, and you
She
know what
tries
she
something
does?
cute.
She tries something cute.
Mhm.
She goes to smash the bathroom window and climb out of it. So Baby is now like a little distracted in dealing with the other hostage.
Just a little, yeah.
Other hostage,
Gloria.
after a little struggle, Gloria gets her hands on the gun that Baby had. And Baby looks at her with
Ooh.
what appears to be hurt in her eyes. And she's like, what are you going to do? Kill me? I'm the only thing standing between you and my brother right now. You've seen him. He's fucking crazy. And Gloria tries to shoot her.
Gloria pulls the trigger.
And the gun's empty. It's been empty the whole fucking
The
time.
whole time.
And Baby says, it's been empty the whole time. It's just mind games. And she throws her knife, and the knife sinks into this woman's chest, and she bleeds out and dies.
Yep.
Meanwhile, Wendy is trying to get out of the bathroom, and she manages it, right? No, she runs out the door.
Yeah, she runs past the body out the front door.
Yeah, and then it looks like she's getting away, and then Spaulding gets her.
Spaulding shows up. And
brings her back, and then they wait, and Otis comes back.
And he's not happy to see Spaulding. Cutter.
He is real unhappy to be seeing Cutter. Yeah.
Not like
And
Baby. This is Baby's father. As far
Yeah,
as the movie tells us.
Apparently, yeah, she calls him dad. So, like,
Once again, Otis is adopted.
yeah. And it's just kind of like, well, all right, whatever. So Otis comes back, and he's wearing Banjo's face on his face because Rob likes cutting off faces and wearing them as masks.
But so does Otis. As this
Clearly.
is his second
This
time
is his
doing
second
it.
time doing it. This is just
I'm
one
sure
of his
he also
things.
does it in 3 from Hell.
And they're annoyed at Otis for taking so long coming back. I expect an awful lot of that time was spent cutting off that guy's face and making it into a mask that he could wear, because that has to be time consuming.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, did you get the guns? And he's like, yeah, I got the guns. And they're like, all right, so we've just got this one more victim to deal with. And they're like, oh, what do we do with her? And at first they're like, we leave her for the maid to clean up. And then Otis is like, I got a better idea. So they pose all the bodies. This is revealed to us through a scene where an employee of the hotel is just going through cleaning the rooms, enters this room, and has to attempt to clean it up. Basically, what they do is they pose all the bodies in the bathroom with a bunch of shit written in blood on the walls. The Devil's Rejects, fuck Wydell, etc.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, the girl is tied up, wearing her boyfriend's face over her face as a mask. And she's like hanging from the inside of the door. And upon the hotel employee coming in, she sees all of this and accidentally knocks Wendy down from where she's suspended on the door. Wendy, begging for help the whole time, runs out the door and just kind of keeps running until she runs into the road and gets pancaked by a semi.
That does not touch the brakes until it's well off screen.
Yeah. And
That
she
guy
was in the road for kind of a while, so it kind of seems like that guy just wasn't trying.
Yeah, he was not paying attention.
Yeah. So then we get this scene with Wydell showing up and talking to the local cops about things, and he's like, "Have you gotten anything out of the hotel maid who came and found her, who found all of this?" And the cop is like, "Well, we can't really because she doesn't speak much English and none of us know any Spanish."
Wydell's unhappy about
Wydell
this.
is very unamused by these guys. The one cop says, we've got one guy on the team who does speak Spanish, but he wasn't able to be here because he's got what he calls explosive diarrhea. And Wydell is like, will you shut the fuck up right now?
He's so unhappy with these guys.
And because Wydell speaks Spanish, he goes and talks to her. And when he addresses her, he uses usted to address her, which I thought was kind of an interesting touch.
You got to explain
It's
what that means.
the formal version of you.
Okay.
I think it's kind of interesting for him in this context to be addressing her with the formal you.
Oh, it's kind of like saying hello, ma'am.
Kind of.
Mhm.
Yeah. And he talks to her and finds that basically that she knows nothing. And that's the size of that scene. Then he goes and talks to Danny Trejo and Dallas Page again.
And boy howdy, they know something.
They know some things.
They managed
And
to
they
track
know
down,
where Charlie Altamont is, and they're pretty
Yep.
sure that that's where all of our main characters are headed. So now we get the scene of the three of them on the road, and this is where the movie kind of takes a minute to be a little lighthearted. We get the ice cream scene and everything, and Rob gives us some time where, like, yeah, your horrible savage killers are all just kind of on a road trip together, and they're just doing regular road trip shit. And then they arrive at Charlie Altamont's brothel, where there is what appears to be a rather tense standoff between him and Cutter, and they're like yelling at each other. And Spaulding is throwing all kinds of detailed insults his way, and Charlie's pointing a shotgun at him the whole time.
Right up his nose. Yep.
And he's not backing down on none of this shit.
Not at all.
And everyone is real worried about it until Charlie pulls the trigger and it's a water gun that looks like a real shotgun. Like,
it's so good.
What the fuck? And he shoots him in the face with a stream of water, and they both laugh, and they're like, that's a really funny thing that we used to do to people, and it still works. Ah!
He's like, isn't this the best water gun you've ever seen?
It is.
And they have their little party.
And they have themselves a party at the brothel.
Mm-hmm. Now, unfortunately, the next day, when Charlie Altamont's getting chickens for some reason from the guy who's like...
Well, because his brother makes the best fried chicken.
Oh, that's right.
This is one of those scenes that I think should get cut. I do not think this scene belongs in the movie at all.
Oh, it's just a guy talking about fucking a dead chicken.
Charlie and Cleavon going and buying a pair of chickens, and this guy is like, y'all ain't planning on fucking these chickens, are you?
And they're both like,
and
what
Charlie's
the fuck
like,
are you talking about?
What the fuck? Why would you say that? Are you accusing me of fucking chickens? Do you fuck chickens? And the guy's like, well, I've thought about it a few times. But then later he says he doesn't approve of it. But he does also have a very detailed accounting of how one might go about having a good time with it.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, and Cleavon is also very, very offended by the fact that the guy says he looks sexually frustrated. And he's like, this guy's calling me a chicken fucker. We're never talking to this guy again, are we? We've got to find a
It's
new
so
guy to buy
funny. He
chickens from.
apologizes to Charlie. He's like, I'm sorry. We're never going to this guy again.
Yeah, like,
And then but while they are there, they're stopped by Wydell too.
yeah.
And he's just like, you make sure they're there at midnight. And he's like, why? And he's like, because if you don't, I'll kill you right now. He's like, okay.
All right then. So they have themselves another party that night.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like this one's a little bit more laid back. It seems like, Charlie and Cutter are kind of having their like more private time doing cocaine together.
Yeah.
And Baby is like in a bath with some woman, one of the employees of the brothel, I assume.
Oh no, because
Otis is with Candy.
Yeah, Otis is
Yeah.
with Candy.
Yeah.
They're all having a great time.
Because she doesn't disappoint. Which is a really funny thing to say after Otis says, I set my expectations low, so I'm never disappointed.
Yeah.
And she's like, I don't disappoint. And everyone's like, ooh. And it's like, well, this is nothing. But while everyone is distracted, the Unholy Two show up and
not
start
only do
to
they
kill
kill everyone in the place that isn't one of our
everyone
core
that
crew.
isn't Charlie or one of the core crew, because they were instructed specifically that Wydell didn't care what kind of shape they were in, long as they were alive long enough for him to have his fun with them. And we do get a few more scenes of him just kind of being unhinged, ranting at himself in a mirror and that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like a 3-minute scene of him yelling at himself in a mirror.
Yeah, it
That's
feels
one of the...
like they were filming a thing that he was just doing as like a character exercise, almost. And it really drives home that like this dude's not okay. And this is when he has that nightmare about his brother as well. And anyways, the Unholy Two get the Devil's Rejects all rounded up and tied up down to some chairs, and Wydell gets them. He takes them back to the house, doesn't he? To the house of 1,000 corpses.
He does.
And he starts holding up pictures printed out of their victims and using this like fucking nail gun.
It's a stapler that sounds like a nail gun.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's one of those big like...
He uses the world's loudest stapler to start stapling these pictures to their chests.
It's great, honestly.
It's
a really good scene, especially...
Because he holds it up and he's like, whose was this?
Because Otis is like out of it. He gets stapled and he's like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah.
I think he's on Molly, isn't he?
And then he gets those nails stuck through his hands. I think I think they show him like taking some pills or something, yeah.
But yeah, as Baby is up for the second picture,
Spaulding
she's
has
like,
been doing cocaine all night and recently smoked an entire joint really, really fast.
really, really fast.
So like he's in some kind of state.
He's
but it's
also
like...
very unhappy that Baby voluntarily took the second picture. He's like, hey, shut up!
It's really weird that she takes credit for the second one so readily when she knows what's coming, but then when he goes to staple it to her, she acts surprised.
It's really good. She's like, ah!
She's just like, oh yeah, that's mine. Ah, what the fuck?
And then, the scene continues when he fucking nails Otis to the chair. Now there's like 7 pictures fucking stuck on his chest.
Yeah.
And Baby has like 4. Spaulding has none, of course, because
for some reason
he didn't kill any of the people there. He's too busy serving fried chicken.
So then Wydell's plan now is to let Baby go for some reason and then set the house on fire for Otis and Spaulding to die there.
Well, because he wants to hunt her down.
He wants to hunt her for some reason.
Because he's bad now.
Well, yeah, he's gone fully off the deep end at this point.
And he has gone fully fucking Firefly about it.
He's gone fully fucking Firefly.
Mm-hmm. Fully fucking Firefly.
Fully fucking Firefly.
And he gets her too.
The Tutti fucking Fruity bit really is just funny.
It's really good.
It's
there's
literally
more
just the
great
two of them
moments.
being annoying to Otis, but like it's fun.
There's more great moments in this movie than there are in House of 1,000 Corpses, and that is
infinitely more.
One, and that is
and this movie
one.
isn't trying to be fun as much as House of 1,000 Corpses was.
No, it's not trying to be fun at all. It's just good.
It just ends up that way sometimes, and really desperately not fun at other times.
Yeah.
But
you're never gonna guess who comes to the fucking rescue when Baby is on the ground.
Hold on now. He's chasing Baby, and he chases her off through this like cattle corral.
Yeah, because they had cows.
They had cows apparently. Very odd.
They're in Texas.
They didn't seem like cow people. Are they in Texas?
They are.
Oh, okay.
Makes more sense now, right?
It feels as though it's supposed to be in Texas, but it's shot in California, and it for the most part looks that way.
Yep, but it looks like a guy not from Texas's idea of Texas.
Yes. Yeah, where it's all just like, I don't know, desert, right? Every
Honestly,
now and then you got a little prairie going on.
it's more Arizona than anything.
I've never been to Arizona, so I don't know.
I've watched Breaking Bad, so
That's in New Mexico.
God damn it. I said the wrong place.
Anyways, so he's chasing baby, and this scene is actually really intense. The guy who plays Wydell, William Forsythe,
Yeah.
is super, super intense in this scene. Apparently, the way that this scene went was so intense in the shooting that when they got to the point where Wydell actually finally kicked it, because Tiny comes to the rescue and twists his head all the way around
Mhm.
just before he can actually kill baby, he shoots
Yeah.
her in the leg and like breaks a bone in there. You hear it happen. Good
Mhm.
noise. Oh my god.
Oh yeah.
Whew. Apparently after shooting this scene, Sherry had to take like a couple of days off of working on this movie because it was just a lot for her.
Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah. She seems like she's having a bad fucking time.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't seem like he's having a good time either.
But he's at
But
least
he's
the
not on the
inflictor of the bad
receiving
time.
end. Yeah. So, anyways, they get to So Wydell now dead. Tiny helps baby get up and get into the car. She tells him Otis and Captain Spaulding are still inside the house. So he goes into the burning house, pulls the nails out of Otis's hands, unties the both of them. They get out. And it's at this point that he, instead of getting into the car with them, chooses to go back into the burning house and die.
Yeah, I don't know why he chose to go back in.
And Otis says, aren't you coming with us? And he like shakes his head and Otis says, we'll come back for you. And Tiny goes into the house and there's like a big flare up and there's like an explosion sound. It's very clearly indicated he's dead.
Mm-hmm.
And I cannot figure out why that is what happens.
Yeah.
I don't know. But then they keep driving. This is where we get the Freebird scene.
This is the Freebird scene.
Yeah.
Because now we're in our triumphant final part.
Yeah.
They escaped
They have
the
escaped.
crazy lawman. And they're just driving along and Freebird starts to play and there's no noise outside of Freebird. And
It's just Freebird. Yeah, there's no diegetic sounds whatsoever. It's
Yeah.
just Freebird.
they're driving the fucking pimp mobile.
And as it builds in its intensity, it hits the guitar solo, and that guitar solo comes in real hot at the beginning. Well, the big like high
Yeah, 'cause-
energy one.
Well, even before they hit that point, actually, like they're still coming to that point, and
Oh,
Spaulding
yeah.
and
And
Otis
they-
stops the car.
Because they see the police blocking the road.
It's a roadblock. It's one final
and they're
go.
all like they're all like half conscious, and they're
Oh,
like,
yeah.
oh no, we're still going.
and Otis drags
and
out a few
as-
guns to throw in the back seat.
Yeah, he drags out a few guns, and everyone has one. And as the guitar solo starts to hit the really intense stuff, they're gunning it toward the cops, and then
Opening fire.
cut hard to black, no music, tons of gunfire,
Mhm.
and then the credits roll. What an ending! Oh my
It's
god,
such an ending. It is
holy shit!
like I like movies of Rob's made after this. I really am a big fan of his Halloween duo.
I still haven't seen those.
They're
I need to.
There's bad moments in them.
Sure.
His
I
director's
have
cut
been
is
warned
not
about-
great.
I have been warned about this. Yeah.
But Halloween 2 is just really good. Like it's actually
It seems like there's a huge divide between people who say his Halloween 2 is horrible and people who say it's better than his first one.
it is better than his first one in my opinion because
You're one of those then. Okay.
The movie lands in the camp of what happens to the people after they survive these things.
Ooh.
That's Halloween 2.
But not in the Halloween Kills kind of way, I assume.
No, not in the Halloween Kills.
Evil does not die tonight.
Well, that's the thing is Halloween Kills is a festering wound.
Okay, this is more immediate. Or more like shortly after and whatnot.
It's 1 year later.
Oh, okay. Just like this.
Yeah,
Okay. Gotcha.
it's really good. But I like his Halloween movies. I love Lords of Salem.
I love
I
Lords of
enjoy
Salem.
31.
I think 31 has some cool shit in it, and overall is a movie that I cannot enjoy.
So fair. There's
That
30%
said,
of a
every
great
moment that
movie.
Richard Brake is on screen, I love it.
Oh my god.
I love that guy. I tell you what,
It's so
he
good.
has not Richard Brake has not let me down yet. I feel like
Mm,
he's
never.
always just doing these off the wall parts in these really odd movies,
Yeah.
And he's really good. He's really good in 31. He's good in Mandy for the brief period
I
that
haven't
he's in
seen
that.
Mandy yet.
You have got to
I
watch
have.
Mandy.
I
Oh
own
my
it
God.
because I got it from a friend of mine who hated it. He was like, I'm just throwing it away, so you can have
What
it.
kind of person hates that movie? Oh my God.
I don't know, actually.
Someone who doesn't like looking at cool things? Like,
Here's the thing. This dude loves schlocky horror and
oh,
loves
I see the
horror in
problem.
general. And there's nothing that, well, from everything I know about
Mandy's-
Mandy, he shouldn't dislike it.
Sure, but like it's not really horror and it's not
False billing moment where you think
well,
it's going to be
I mean,
scarier.
like it is horror. It definitely has a lot of horror to it, but I would definitely back an argument that it's not really a horror movie
Yeah.
because it's more focused on being like not to give spoilers, but it's a revenge movie.
Yeah.
And it's got a lot of horror elements to it for sure. But it's really not being a horror movie in the traditional sense, you know?
Okay.
And
Makes sense.
if he's into schlocky horror movies, it's going to come across too art housey.
That's fair.
That said, it's not immensely art housey, but it is
It's art housey enough
it is
for
Panos
someone
Cosmatos.
like that. Yeah.
So
But back to
anyways,
this,
back to
this,
Devil's Rejects.
As much as
What
I hate
Mandy?
to say it, this might be Rob's best movie.
You think?
This is at least my favorite Rob Zombie. I might have rated Lords of Salem higher on Letterboxd, but I hadn't watched this movie in like 10 years.
They've got very different atmospheres is the
And-
thing, and I like that shows some of Rob's like range that people don't think he has.
Yeah.
I would love for him to start making more movies that he cares a little less about. This may sound odd,
No,
but
I
want
get that.
I want to see what happens
mean, that's
when Rob
31.
has someone else in like the writing room.
Oh, okay.
You know, I want to see him like I want to see other people working with his ideas rather than everything being purely written and directed by Rob Zombie the way that this is.
Yeah.
Much as I love this, right? I want to see him working with some other people. I want to see him like in a writing room with somebody else. I want to see somebody else making some of the creative decisions because I feel like if you paired him with the right people, they could turn out something really incredible because Rob's got a good sense for a lot of things. It's just that he doesn't have the perfect sense for everything. And that even might be a wrong statement because everything he does that I don't like, I know he's doing it on purpose.
He is doing it on purpose, and
And
sometimes
a lot
that's
of it
even
is
just
he's
to get
not,
a rise.
He's not trying to be popular is the
No.
big thing.
He's
Like, you
making his
listen to the way
movies
he's
for his
talked-
people.
Yeah, you listen to the way he talks about what his approach has always been, even from the White Zombie days. He has never given a shit about what he expects other people to like. He just wants to
not a
do the
single bit.
thing that he likes. And that I find absolutely impossible to fault as a creative approach
Yeah.
because like whatever he's making, you know that's what he wanted it to be.
He wanted it to be exactly that.
Yeah, like I feel stupid even saying that I want to see him work with other people so he would have to compromise more, right? Because like why should I want that for someone?
Right?
But some people really do turn out their best work when they're bouncing ideas off of someone.
Right. And that would be
If you just had the
interesting to
right
see at the very
person.
least. Because if it's bad, I still have like 6 Rob
Yeah.
Zombie movies that are so good.
Absolutely.
And one that's fine. And The Monsters.
And the Monsters. I still haven't watched that because I've never seen
Neither have I.
the Monsters.
Yeah, I'm just not interested in
I
it.
feel like there's nothing there for me.
Yeah.
You know,
Hate to say it, but there's just not.
I'm looking forward to the next thing he does. I'll watch that.
I'll always
probably.
watch the next thing he does.
Yeah, absolutely.
But-
Very into it. Can't wait to watch 3 from Hell.
Yeah, me too. Frankly, I really want to like it.
Yeah.
I've just, it's a
I know it
12
doesn't
years after the
have-
fact sequel, and there's no Sid Haig in it because he died.
Because he died partway through making it. Yeah.
Yeah,
There's a couple
so-
of very brief scenes with him in it, I think.
I believe there's scenes with him in prison, and then he's sent to death row or something, or he dies in prison.
Yeah.
But he looks rough.
I would bet. Yeah. Real sad. I've never heard any accounts of him being like a piece of shit in real life or anything.
No,
Seems like
everything
everyone
I've
who
heard
knew
is
him-
he's a fucking doll.
Yeah.
Honestly, and that's what you hear about Rob for the most part too.
I've never heard a
Everyone-
bad story from a person who met Rob Zombie.
People who say he's not great, either it comes out, oh, well, these guys have bad opinions all the time. They're kind of an issue, or it's tour drama. And tours are sometimes not that great.
Well, sure,
You know,
because like he
and
had
that's
that big
fine.
public beef with Marilyn Manson for
Yeah,
a
you
really
know
long
what?
time. And you know
Fucking
what?
me
He was
too.
right about
Fuck
that.
Marilyn Manson.
Yeah.
Also,
But that was a thing that a lot of people didn't like him for a long time.
It was
is
so
that
funny
he
because
publicly hated Marilyn Manson.
well, no, that wasn't even the thing. They had one fight on their tour
Oh, was that
where
it?
Manson flipped shit and
What
was
a
just like,
surprise.
"Fuck you, zombie," and then he's like, "Yeah, fuck you, Manson."
Yeah.
And it was like a 2-show thing where they had public beef, and he's like, "Yeah, we got over that by the time the news stations picked this up." Like, come on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, he was making fun of the fucking news cycles at that point.
Oh, good. He's right. Once again, he's right.
Yeah.
Like,
but I love the Devil's Rejects. That
it's
is
just
I
really
need
good. It's really well
to-
done.
I need to get a Devil's Rejects poster in this room. I mean, I got a fucking
I bet you could find
Candyman,
a
Friday the
sick one.
13th, and BioShock. You know?
Yeah.
That's what I bring to the table here.
Oh, those are the only ones of all the posters in this room? Our
Um,
listeners cannot see this room, but it is actually pretty clear which ones are Noah's and which ones
Yeah.
are Nina's, because the ones that are Nina's are 50-50
Self-made merch for
self-made merch
Nina's
for
books.
Nina's own books and such, and there's a lot of X-Men posters.
Yeah,
A
a lot.
lot.
I also, that Plague Doctor, that's mine. From the Mutter Museum.
Oh, that's cool.
If y'all ever get the chance to go there in Philly, the Mutter Museum, you gotta go.
It's a good Plague Doctor poster as well.
I mean, fair warning, I am telling you to go look at human remains because that's what the museum
They've
is.
got like
a bunch
a whole
of people
wall
donated.
full of fucked up skulls.
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's and human skin preserved for the tattoos. There's a
Oh.
lot of stuff.
It's morbid as hell.
It's morbid as hell. There's an entire section devoted to miscarriages and like
Oh,
yeah, stuff like that, like preserved specimens.
speaking of
and
babies in
stuff.
jars from earlier.
Yeah, right. But it's a very unique experience, and it's a really cool moment to be able to go in. There's no photography allowed inside, and
That
it's
makes
just like
sense.
devoted to the appreciation of life and death.
When you say there's no photography allowed inside, they do have extensive pictures on like their website and stuff.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not as
When
though
I
they're
say no
gatekeeping
photography,
seeing this thing.
yeah,
They don't
it's
want you taking your own pictures.
and frankly, it's because it's disrespectful. These are people who their bodies were donated by family.
yeah.
The museum doesn't own all of these pieces. Some of these are like on loan at like many museums. When I
Right,
went
yeah.
there, it was December of 2019, and their big display was the Spanish flu because that was 1920. And they're like, hey, it's the 100-year anniversary of the Spanish flu wiping out a huge chunk of America's home population during the fucking World War.
Good thing that'll never happen again.
Literally. I got somewhere around here, I still have my Spit Spreads death pin because people used to think that's how the flu was spread. So many people spat on the ground. They're like, you're spitting on the ground, it's evaporating and into dust, and we're inhaling it, and that's why everyone's sick. So everyone wore masks.
And they had like
And
a
it
huge
helped-
public
and the
public
masks-
health push for people
Yeah.
to stop spitting on the street, which is a fantastic thing to be pushing
Firstly.
for, because that's disgusting.
And people wore masks and got healthier, and then the soldiers came home and they didn't want to wear the masks anymore because it wasn't fun, and a lot more people got sick again. Fucking history,
Yep.
fucking over and over.
Yeah.
I'm not mad.
Well, and also the Spanish flu epidemic is a very difficult one to calculate the death toll of because it was during World War One.
Yeah,
so
so-
it's like a ton of people are dying regardless. It's
Yeah.
really difficult to tally what's from what, and very annoying.
Anyway, though, if you get a chance to go there. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think a fucking Devil's Reject poster would go hard.
Oh yeah, look real good on that particular patch of wall.
I was
right there,
actually
think.
thinking the exact same thing.
Yeah.
But anyway, thank you for being here for House of a Thousand Rejects.
What a time this has been.
If you only watch one of these movies, watch a synopsis for the first one and watch The Devil's Rejects.
Yeah, is there like a kill count or something?
I think
'Cause
there
if
is.
Dead Meat has covered House of a Thousand Corpses, I think that might be the best way to figure out whether you want to watch it. Because it's definitely one of those movies that like I would not recommend to someone without having a specific reason to believe that they should.
Yeah, he covered it. If-
James has covered it. Hell
if
yeah.
he covered that, then that means he also
did Devil's Rejects.
and he probably
I
did
bet he
Three
did
from
Three
Hell.
from Hell. Yeah.
If it's still up there, that's the big question because a lot of his kill
shit
counts
gets
get taken
Pulled
down
down. Yeah,
anymore.
it's very, very sad.
Um,
But yeah, if you're interested in the sound of this, I would say you don't need to watch House of a Thousand Corpses in order to get Devil's Rejects.
mhm.
If you are interested in the notion of watching these things, I would definitely encourage you to watch the kill count videos on them first to decide whether you want to do that.
Here's the thing. I watched Devil's Rejects first.
Did you?
I did. I
Oh,
watched them out of order. The only thing you miss is that Spaulding is a bigger character in House of a Thousand Corpses as Captain Spaulding than he is in Devil's Rejects.
right. He's a
If
bigger
you
character in Devil's Rejects, but he's not in his capacity as the captain.
No.
He's Cutter.
And if you want to see more Spaulding, you got to see Corpses. But if you just watch Devil's Rejects, you're not missing out on too much. It once again, I really do believe House of a Thousand Corpses is an experience to be had,
Sure.
not necessarily a fun time.
The first time that I watched it, I went in being like, all right, this is the first movie Rob Zombie ever made, so this is the first of his movies that I'm going to watch, and I'm just going to find out what the deal is with it. And the whole time I was watching it, I was like, this is exactly what you would think based on his music that his movie would be like.
Yeah. So if that
It's-
sounds like anything that makes sense to you, because that
Yeah.
is really,
He
that's it.
honestly, a lot of what he's going for in it reminds me of, I compared it to like a Tarantino thing, but it's also kind of like, and this is going to take a little explaining, a little thinking. It reminds me a little bit of like a Tim Burton, except that it's just that
Oh.
the styles he's appropriating are not Gothic and silent era movies.
Mm-hmm.
It's 50s, 60s, 70s schlock and exploitation,
gonna say,
monster
it's-
movies and such.
It's Hammer horror.
Exactly.
and
He's grabbing from a
his
different bag of
carny
aesthetics,
past.
but he's doing kind of the same thing with it that Tim Burton tends to do with the stuff that he likes.
Yeah.
You got any final thoughts on this stuff? On it seems like we've already talked a lot about all of our generalized thoughts on Rob Zombie as a filmmaker, on these movies,
Yeah.
sort of in general.
And that's why I feel like these were two good ones to do together, because frankly, there's not a lot to talk about them enough to make an episode.
How do you have a regular conversation for a whole episode about House of a Thousand
but
Corpses?
a
You
loose
just-
conversation during the big recap is, I
Yeah.
think, the only way to truly handle these. When it's four of us, that's way harder to do.
Yeah, very different.
But
Very
just the two
different.
of us, it's easy for one of us to bring us back into line, but we can still drift around. But we watch some movies that have like a statement to make.
Yeah, these movies do not.
They don't have a statement. This is Rob saying, hey,
What if this was happening? That'd
wouldn't it be
fucked
fucked up if? And
Yeah.
then we see, wouldn't it be fucked up if the Fireflies existed? And it's like, damn, that would. And he's like, hey, wouldn't it be fucked up if
More?
they got away?
Yeah, what if the
What if
family
they
was
hit the
finally
road?
about to face fucking justice and get shot dead the way that we all know they deserve to be, but then 3 of them were able to just get away, you know?
Mhm.
And they just went, causing havoc wherever they went because they don't give a shit about anything at all. What if that, you know? I imagine 3 from Hell is just more of the same, probably.
Yeah.
To some degree or another. I can't imagine it going a surprising direction.
I don't know. It's here, you know?
It
It's
sure
just,
is.
it's nice to every now and then, it's nice to watch a movie that it doesn't have a point to be made. There is no societal statement being made other than the part about the cop descending down to the Fireflies level. Be careful when you hunt monsters that you don't become one.
It definitely feels
You
like
know?
the movie's doing a little anti-cop stuff.
It's a little anti-cop, and it's
Actually, no, scratch that. The movie's doing a lot of anti-cop stuff, actually. Because all the non-Wydell cops are shown to be dumb and
oh my god,
incompetent.
every one of them is the most incompetent fucker
Yeah.
that you've ever seen in your
And they
life.
could not be bothered to give a single shit about anything.
Mm-hmm.
And even Wydell is angry about this because he's in it for all the wrong reasons, but at least he cares. Is he fully prepared to start committing war crimes the moment he sees the Fireflies? Yes, he is.
Yes,
and
he
that's a
is.
big, big problem.
It indeed.
But
is
this
a
is
huge
not
problem.
his feeling toward absolutely everyone. It's
No.
directed specifically and focused on the Fireflies.
I mean, he's really like kind to the maid.
He is actually, in a way that the other cops are not, and he is
No.
annoyed at them for this.
Yeah, because he's like, treat her like a fucking person,
Yeah, imagine
and he
that
treats her like a
shit.
person
God.
using the formal honorifics.
Mhm.
Finds out
Which
she
might be
doesn't
normal for that particular interaction.
And
I don't know.
finds
But,
out she doesn't know anything and doesn't just go, ah, fuck you, and leave.
Yeah, he says something else to
He's like,
her
"Okay,
before he
thanks,"
leaves, and
and
his
leaves.
tone kind of makes it seem as though I don't know what he said. It's
Mhm.
not translated in subtitles or anything, so I don't know what that last line he says to her is, but it comes across as though he's saying like I don't know, like you're not in trouble, you're all right, or something.
Yeah, and I just really liked it.
It's really well done. It's just good.
It's upsetting at times,
Yeah.
and the roller coaster of emotions you get from having some of the most upsetting scenes I've seen in a movie that I was not expecting. Like
Yeah.
Inside, I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
I knew that I knew what that movie was fucking about,
Mhm.
right? I knew what I was getting into when I watched Inside. I didn't know what I was getting into when I watched The Devil's Rejects. And this is a lot when you don't know what you're getting into.
I had a
It's an
vague idea what I
experience.
was getting into with Devil's Rejects when I went into it because I was told that it was actually a good like Western horror movie,
Mhm.
and I was excited for that because I
Western
was
like
kind of
Yeehaw or Western like America?
Western like Yeehaw,
Okay, yeah, yeah.
which it is. It's
Yeah.
very much Western styled. The Dead and Lovely guys actually compared parts of the plot movements to Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back,
I definitely get that.
and Star Wars is very very much influenced by westerns as well.
Oh, yeah.
So it's kind of like that's all that is. And it's very much doing the revisionist western kind of like there's no real hero kind of thing where
Yeah.
it's just, yeah, Clint Eastwood rolled in from out of town and he's doing some things that might be good for some people, but it's mostly things that are good for him, like
Mhm.
Fistful of Dollars basically.
High Plains Drifter.
High Plains
Definitely.
Drifter as well, very much. Not Pale Rider, because in Pale Rider he's a communist, but
He's a communist pastor.
yeah, for some reason. Still no name on him, but whatever.
In Hang 'em High, he's just a guy. And he's so mad.
Good, as he ought to be. In Fistful of Dollars, he's just this like suspiciously knowledgeable guy.
And in The Devil's Rejects, he's not there.
He's not. He's not. He could have been, I think. But I bet he wouldn't want to.
I don't think he
I
would.
feel like Clint Eastwood probably hates Rob Zombie.
There's, it just reminds me of, who was it? Was it Tarantino or Bay? So one of the guys walked out of the screening of Friday the 13th.
Oh, that was Michael Bay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bay walked out saying it was fucking disgusting. And it's like, man, what do you mean? This is just another Friday movie that's just a little...
It's just
got
a little bit extra gross.
Yeah, it's just a little extra gross. Calm down.
I would be interested to see what Rob Zombie would do with a Friday the 13th movie.
I also would be interested, but I know I would not like it.
I bet it would be unpleasant.
I don't think I would have fun because it would Also, the guy who plays RJ is the guy who plays Michael Myers.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Rufus is Michael Myers
Gotcha.
in Zombies movie.
Yeah, I know Bill Moseley
Tyler
is in Rob Zombie's Halloween, and
He plays a necrophiliac.
also Bill Moseley is in he's in the 2013 Texas Chainsaw remake, the one that's just titled Texas Chainsaw.
Mm-hmm.
Bill Moseley's in that. He's Drayton Sawyer.
Oh.
Yeah, that's a Bill Moseley.
Huh.
He's also in Army of Darkness.
Yeah.
He's one of the skeletons.
That's very funny.
And he's only in Army of Darkness because he knew that Sam Raimi was making it, and he wrote a letter asking to be in it, basically, explaining, about how he was Chop Top in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, if you saw that, and blah, blah, blah. And I really love the Evil Dead movies. He wrote Sam Raimi a letter about how he loved the Evil Dead movies and would love to be in the new one that he knew they were making. And Sam Raimi reading this was just like, somebody wants to be in here? Yeah, sure.
I need so many extras for the wall of skeletons.
Yeah, so he is he's like an important skeleton. He's the one that's wearing like he's a skeleton that's wearing like 2 eye patches. And he's like always he's the one who's like talking to evil Ash and giving him like strategic advice and stuff.
I love that.
When they're having the big battle at the end. It's fantastic. Anyways, though,
Bill Moseley is such a good actor.
He really
I'm so
is.
glad that he's willing to work with Rob Zombie and do these fucked up characters and it's just great character work, and I really appreciate him being here
it's
for
clear
it.
that they work together really well because he's been in like all of Rob Zombie's
Oh, yeah.
movies.
Honestly, that's the thing. So many people work with so many of Rob's movies. He has a very
repeat people. He's got a repeat cast on the same level as like a Mike Flanagan, damn near.
Yeah, almost the same level as a Flanagan, almost the same level as a fucking American Horror Story. Like, he's got a really consistent rotation of people.
I would compare him to Guillermo del Toro in this way, and no other way at all.
Yes, and also being horny for old movies.
Oh, there is that. They are both horny for old movies.
Both love those old
and
movies.
they both love monsters, but I think they like them in different ways.
I think they do.
And with
Guillermo wants to fuck.
Rob might also, but they definitely want to fuck different
He's
monsters.
more tactful about it.
Yeah.
No, he's less. He's not more tactful.
No,
he's
no,
he's
no,
le-
no. He's
he's less classy about it. No, because Guillermo's really classy about
he
how
is.
he's
That's
like,
the thing. When Guillermo makes a monster fucking movie, it's something beautiful like Shape of Water.
God, I love Shape of
It's
Water.
so fucking good. Oh my god.
Can't wait to talk about that on the podcast.
It's inevitable, right?
Nina loves it. Maybe
Nina loves it. I love it.
I'm gonna,
You love it.
I'm gonna call an audible. That's next week's movie.
Next week's movie is
Next
what?
2 weeks from now's movie.
Yeah, now that we're in the Christmas season, it's time to cover a Christmas movie, Shape of Water.
It is around Christmas, isn't it?
I don't think so. No.
Fuck. We should probably cover a Christmas movie, at least one in the month of December.
I'm sure we'll figure one out. And if it's not a Christmas movie that we do next, it'll be Shape of Water.
No,
No,
it has to be
Shape
Christmas.
of Water's not even a. We can't call that a horror movie. We can't justify that.
We can cover it, but a lot of horror podcasts cover it because it's good.
So are we just following the trends? Is that what we're doing now?
Yup.
With that, I've been Jeff. You can find me on Tumblr at What Is It You Pray For?
I'm Noah. You can find me at Bubbadabad, BUBBADABAD on Twitch, Tumblr, Letterboxd, and Blue Sky.
It's really sucks that you can't say Twitch, Twitter, Insta anymore. That
I
was really a good
know.
time, wasn't it?
It was great. Twitch, Twitter, and Insta.
Yeah. Anyways, you can also find the podcast on Tumblr at Casual Horror Pod.
You better
And-
believe I'm about to go on a spree of Devil's Rejects reblogs.
Oh boy. And we will see you next time.
Awoo. Awoo.
Is that your best awoo?
Werewolves of London?